the meeting of the Planning Commission for Wednesday, February 26, 2025 to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Preston,
Here.
Vice Chair Borders, here. Commissioner Pizell,
Here.
Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner DeChristopher, Commissioner Cron,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. I'd like to open up this time for public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that's relative to or within the authority of this public body. You'll have 3 minutes. There is a clock up here. We ask that you respect each other. And if you're here on a specific agenda item, you may wish to wait for that time. It's entirely up to you. So I'd like to open up for public comment, please.
Okay, my name, of course, is Todd Reese. I'm Supervising Deputy DA for Carson City. As you may have noticed, you have a new DA sitting up here for the Planning Commission. The DA's office every now and then rotates the DAs through the various departments. And for those of you who weren't there at the last meeting, I am being rotated off of community development into other departments. My colleague Mihaela is stepping in and becoming counsel for the Planning Commission and the Community Development Department, and you are in very good hands. So I just wanted to come out to public comment and say it was a pleasure working with you all, and hello and goodbye. And Mr. Peterson, it's a pleasure to meet you. And I wish you all the best of luck. So,
Thank you so much, Todd. And we don't usually answer to public comment, but we just definitely want to thank you for all your tenure, because we've been through a lot, and so we appreciate it very much.
No, you're welcome. It's been my pleasure, and it's been about 3 years, I think, which is about a year overdue for the DA rotating its DAs. But as I mentioned, it's been a pleasure working with you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, I'd like to bring it up first of all, I would like to welcome our new commissioner member, Greg Peterson. Hi, Greg. And I'd like to welcome Mihaela. Thank you so much. We're glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. And I'm so glad that Todd was able to come here as well to introduce me.
Thank you. And we're glad you're here too, Greg. So,
Well, now you've got twice the Gregs.
I know. We already discussed that, and I have a hard enough time.
Quorum of Gregs. There's no stopping.
Well, we have Heather 1 and Heather 2, so now we have Greg 1 and Greg 2.
Yes. And we'll have to figure out who's 1 and 2 on each particular day. Anyway, for possible action, approval of the minutes for December 17th, 2024, for the Planning Commission meeting. I must abstain because I was not here, but do I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve the minutes for the December 17th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I seconded.
Okay, in regards to the joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors on December 19th, 2024, Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission, I did see one correction I would like to make. It's on page 3. And it's down at the very bottom. It says that Chair Preston was opposed to tax write-offs. I'd like to say property tax write-offs, because those are the only ones we can do, and say that I was opposed to. So I want to make sure that's corrected to read property tax. Tamara, please. And are there any other changes?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move we accept the December 19th, 2024 joint meeting as amended.
Thank you, Commissioner Borders. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Pizell. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, that motion passes. We are to 6A, and it's for possible action, discussion, and possible action to elect a planning commission chair and vice chair. But I'm going to take this time before we get to that to actually thank the people that for the last couple of years I've been the chair, and prior to that I was the vice chair. And during that time, we actually accomplished tons as a Board of Commissioners. And I would like to thank my fellow commissioners that worked with Title 18, Title 17, and the master plan. And that would be Chuck Borders, Paul Eswine, Hope Tingle, Jay Wiggins, Vern Cron, Sina Lloyd, Ellen DeChristopher, Greg Brooks, and Rob Pizell. And I would definitely want to thank that. And I want to thank the staff, because the staff has been absolutely wonderful to work with. And Tamara, we'd love Tamara. So thank you, Tamara. And we'd like to also put a shout out to Ben Johnson, Todd Reese, and now we have Michaela. So thank you so much. So, as I'm the chair, I'm going to make this motion. It's a nomination. I'd like to nominate Charles Borders as the chairman of the Planning Commission, and further, I'd like to nominate Vern Cron as the vice chair. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Pizell. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, welcome, Chairman Borders and Vice Chair
Yeehaw.
Cron.
Madam Chair, one question, or Mr. Chair at this point. Is this for a year?
Yes, it's for a year.
Okay, may I amend the motion then?
Yes,
Thank you.
Well, do we need to amend the motion, or the bylaws state that we have to do it every year in January anyway? But
Michaela Niagos, for the record, it's not necessary to amend the motion. Given the way the item is agendized, these elections happen once a year in January for a one-year term.
Thanks.
thank you, and I've turned the gavel over to Chair Borders.
I'd like to welcome our new members.
Do you guys want to switch seats?
Do we have to switch seats? Why don't we just change the name tags?
Yeah, let's switch seats. Greg Brooks, if you want to step over, because the vice chair will sit to the left of the chair. The chair will sit here. Vice chair will sit here. Hey, thank you.
I keep moving my
Where-
way this
where
way.
am I going
I guess
here?
you're going where I'm at.
All right, fair enough.
Can I have your annotated master slide?
There we go.
I got my chair adjusted finally. Well, after that Chinese fire drill, I'd like to move on the agenda item 6A for possible action, discuss and possible action, 6B, I'm sorry, LU 2025-0011 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request for a special use permit to establish a maximum building height and minimum setback standards for the construction of four buildings totaling approximately 1,458 square feet in size and a 720 square foot canopy with approximately 134 square feet of screened outside storage associated with the establishment of an adventure center, which will include vending booths and a visitor plaza to promote outdoor recreation in the area as part of the Travel Nevada grant program on a site zone P located at 2180 South Carson Street, assessors parcel numbers APN 003, 302, 01, 02, and 04. Heather.
Good evening, Heather Manzo for the record. So this request is located at the current State Railroad Museum. And so the applicant is proposing to locate 4 buildings with a 700 square foot canopy separating 2 of the buildings. It's a small area for outside storage, which would be fully screened, and was included in the proposed elevations that were in your packet. This request is purely because while the code does now address allowable uses within the P zone, the setbacks and height need to be established by special use permit. So if this request would have been allowed to go straight to building permit if those setbacks and height limitations were in code. So that's something that we're working on. But with this proposal, the applicant's proposing a pedestrian walkway, the 4 buildings, and some identification placards and informational items on the site. This is going to be located kind of where some of the parking area exists today. And I didn't really calculate or analyze the parking provided for this use because there's, if you've been to the site or seen the site plan, there's sufficient parking for the existing use plus this. So with this, the applicant's proposed architectural elevations, areas where signage will go for each of the vendors and for identification, and then also provided some visual representations of how those buildings and areas will look once constructed. So with that, staff was able to make all of the necessary findings. I didn't receive any calls from members of the community, and the applicant is here to address the commission at the appropriate time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for staff?
Oh, I had one too.
Commissioner Kroll?
Oh, okay. Heather, can you give me a little bit of background? Can you go back to the parcel map? I guess the parcel map, it's just interesting the way the parcel map is set up. How did that get created the way it is? It's just this long, narrow parcel. So, and the reason I ask is because you're asking for setback requirements from that parcel line. So I'm trying to, not that I disagree with the setbacks necessarily, but that's an odd shaped parcel. Can you explain a little bit if you know?
I'd be happy to. So how the parcels came to be, I'm guessing, is a combination of land acquisition, right-of-way establishment, and things like that. So there are 3 parcels that are part of the Railroad Museum. They actually don't look exactly like this. So what the applicant did, I contacted them and I said, hey, we've got to set up what the setbacks are going to be. So I need to know what the distances are between the buildings themselves and the closest property lines. So that's what that kind of long rectangle within the middle rectangle is what they were considering their setback line. So what it depicts is that the closest building to the west is 4 feet away from that property line. And then they were anticipating a 10-foot setback to the north and south, and then also 10 to the east. So that's really what it's visually representing. There's not a parcel map proposed, it's existing. And because they're at least 4 feet away, we felt comfortable making a recommendation based on the current lot layout.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, if I may, I just want to explain a little the background on the regulations, not this project, because the staff came to me and said we messed up. And so what you'll remember is when we were updating Title 18 and we looked at the public zoning districts, we said, oh, we don't want every single solitary thing that's public, like a storage building, to have to come for a special use permit. So we amended the code in terms of the uses. But what we did not change, I'm not certain we can change, is the part of the code that addresses the dimensional criteria. And so right now, what the code says is if the zoning's public, the dimensional criteria, i.e. setbacks, height, things like that, will be determined by, at the time of the special use permit. And so the planning manager came to me and said, we didn't call out what the setbacks will be. And I said, oh gosh, that was a mistake. Then I thought about it. I said, actually, I don't know that we know what the setback should be. And the reason is because when we talk about public land, we don't know what we're going to get. We might get a wastewater treatment plant. We might get a jail. We might get a prison. We might get an office building. We might get a kiosk where they sell tickets. You don't know, right? And depending on what that is and where it's located and what's around it will sort of help inform what those setbacks should be. And so I just wanted to give you that background on the regulations because you haven't had an application like this before. And it's because typically the application included the use as well as that dimensional criteria. And now we addressed use, but we didn't address dimensional criteria. And honestly, I don't know that we can have a prescriptive dimensional criteria. So just a little background for you.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to make sure I understand the map and the elevations. It seems to me that the signage and the public-facing part of the structures will be inside the curve. And the outside the curve faces Carson Street, and on the elevation maps, those just look plain and unadorned. I'm wondering, and this may be a question for the project owner rather than the staff, I'm just wondering what it's going to look like as you drive by on Carson Street. Is the expectation that those landscape trees are going to cover that, or are we just going to be looking at the backs of buildings?
Sure, thank you for your question. And the applicant can speak to how they see the finished product looking. But I wouldn't call the buildings plain and unadorned. I would say they meet code.
Okay.
So the reason that we have a condition recommending that the signage and everything be facing inward is because if they're facing a public right-of-way, it's a totally different calculation on what they can put in there. And as they've got it designed, it's really intended to have that visitor center feel when you walk in, and then you've got things of interest as you move on to the site.
Right,
And
and I'm not looking to hang this project up based on that. It's just a matter of curiosity about what the finished product is going to look like.
Sure.
And I apologize for not calling you up earlier, but we had a lot of things to talk about first, but we will get to you. Commissioner Preston, whatever your name is.
Yeah, the question I had is that, Heather, when you gave your presentation, you said that the parking we didn't get into. When we got into the original special use permit, we actually did get into the parking because one of the concerns was the ability to park buses. And I want to make sure that on the record that that is still is approved and they do have adequate bus parking.
For the record, I'm Brenda Scolari, the Director of Tourism and Cultural Affairs. In my capacity, I oversee both our state museums and Travel Nevada, so there are sister agencies involved in this, on this site and in this operation. As a part of this project, we did redesign and restripe the current parking lot to accommodate bus parking. And we also have adequate space for buses to turn around, and the project engineers were very careful
Okay.
to make sure that was provided.
I've got a couple more of these people that want to say something, and I'll give you a chance to tell me everything you need to tell us, okay? Commissioner Pazell?
Yeah, quick question. I'm assuming, obviously, they would have needed to do the special use permit for the building height. Are they doing the special use permit for the setbacks because they want the project to proceed faster timeline than to do a reversion to acreage and move those in those parcels?
No, so as Hope explained earlier, there's a list of allowable uses in the public zones. And if there were no structures associated with those uses, like a park, for instance, may not have structures on it. It may just be a park with some equipment and things. So those would be allowed to go in without having to come to the planning commission. As Hope explained, when there's buildings involved, we've got the special use permit in place to establish the setbacks based on the use and appropriate distance from the property line. So in code, there's no setbacks established for the public zone. So this is truly a requirement of any project that's got buildings on the public zones.
Second question on the parcel map, there's the area where the structures are to be located. There's a second site towards the south that's indicated as a,
Parking area?
no, it's in the same dashed black lines. I think it's limit of work. If you look on the parcel map.
So we've got on
Yeah,
the
but-
southeast corner is a
Correct.
parking lot.
Yeah.
You're improving parking there, right?
Just for clarification,
Kirsten, we're just restriping, right?
Yeah, that's a parking lot. So they're striping it as part of this project.
Okay. Heather, the circle on this parcel map, is that the railroad track?
Yeah.
Where's the railroad track?
Brenda Scolari, for the record, that is correct. That's the actual track.
That's the center line?
I believe so, yes.
So then the track really goes over the property line?
That is correct,
Okay, I'm just asking.
yes.
Okay.
I have the director of the Carson Railroad here, so I was just looking
Okay.
back to confirm that.
Commissioner Crone, you have one more question?
Yeah, a couple more questions, and it goes back to staff. So what we're voting on tonight for the special use permit are the setback requirements and the height limitations, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I just want to be clear, because I have a lot of questions about the project, just because I'm interested in the project, and I think it's a nice project. But there are questions related to the design, the site plan, but that's really not what we're voting on tonight. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are just voting on the setbacks and the height.
Okay, so my next question, and preceding that, is going back to the setbacks, based on what Hope was saying, is that if we're still not quite sure related to what those setback requirements should be, are we looking at it just being what's reasonable out there, I suppose? Is that really what we're looking at then?
Yeah, I think what you're looking at, and sort of what I said, and again, I'm not speaking specifically to this project, I'm speaking in the abstract. Heather obviously is the expert on this project. But as I said, when we talk about things that happen on public property, it happens on public property because the private sector doesn't do it, right? And so you don't know what those impacts will be. You don't know what that thing will be. And so as you look at the dimensional criteria, you should be considering the setting of this location. What is that actual function? What's happening there? In this case, it's some kiosks, they sell tickets. I don't know the specifics of the function. But you should be considering, what is that function? What is the setting? What are the potential impacts? I think you can look at building design. Is it something that happens inside a building or outside a building? Something that happens outside a building might have more impacts than something that happens inside a building. So you certainly are kind of looking at the use to inform your decision on setbacks and height.
Okay. And then a part of that whole setback thing too is also from a dimensional criteria, it's also from neighbors next door. It's related to,
Right, you would look at the setting.
you look at the setting again. So, okay, all right, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, you all have read the conditions of approval on this project?
Brenda Scolari, for the record, yes, we have.
Okay, and you accept those?
Yes, we do.
All right, you have other things you want to tell us? Other cool things that you can tell us about what you're doing?
Certainly, we are very proud of this project. This is an unusual federal, state, and local partnership. And the concept really was to begin to satisfy some of the lack of infrastructure available in regard to outdoor recreation. I'm sure you know that outdoor recreation is now a $1.7 billion industry in the state. but we really don't have enough infrastructure in place, especially in smaller communities, to begin to capture that revenue. So the concept here is to have tour operators and outfitters available on site with state staff. So it's both a public-private operation in that regard as well, to interact with the public and take primarily groups, but we'll also have people available to take individuals and couples out on, or families, individual families, out on tours to have the best possible experience they can in regard to outdoor recreation. Travel Nevada promotes outdoor recreation domestically and internationally, and so we have that incredible marketing engine there waiting to drive people to the site. We will have a sister site in Boulder City in southern Nevada, and we really feel like this is an innovative concept. And we also have a long list of vendors, private businesses ready to sign up. So we feel like it's already a success in that regard. We're putting together a panel to review those applications and then have the best possible mix of vendors available at each site. And the reason this was awarded to us through the Department of Commerce EDA was that it really demonstrates, as I said, a federal, state, and local partnership, but then also can be a space to incubate new businesses and to just create jobs, foster outdoor recreation in the region, and hopefully be beta sites that will demonstrate that this concept is scalable and could be successful in other communities in Nevada. I'm happy to answer any other
Okay.
questions you might have.
Thank you. What's the backside of the building's gonna look like?
I also oversee the Nevada Arts Council and very much a proponent of public art. And so our concept for that is that we will have a mural commissioned for that side of the building.
Because it'll be the
And-
backdrop of the train, with the train tracks running.
Correct. And so we're hoping it will be themed appropriately and fit in with the architecture of the museum and the Adventure Center and be something wonderful to look at and, thought-provoking in design.
Any more questions for the applicant?
One more.
Okay.
One more question. Talk to me a little bit about your site design. When I was out there wandering around, it was one of those things where it was like, were you trying to capture kind of creating a little village kind of feel? Because you have the other buildings to the north, and then you have these buildings here and how they kind of interact together. Architecturally, they look similar. So talk to me a little bit about the site design and how you came up with that versus just like plunking it down in the middle of nowhere. I'm pretty sure, my feeling is that there's more thought given to that than like, oh, here's some empty spot, let's put it here.
That is correct. So we've been working with LGA architects, have worked with them on other projects, and really wanted this to be as interactive as possible. So we'll have vendors operating inside each unit, and we'll do most of their storage and transactions there. The tours will be booked primarily online, but we wanted it to be an energetic gathering space, have traffic flow through the units, and to have it be as appealing and engaging as possible. We'll also have it available, we have yet to program this in terms of the calendar year, but we'll work with the museum, and of course, outdoor recreation is seasonal. So in some of our downtimes, we hope to make the space also available to the museum to augment some of their events.
Like the steam off. Is
That's
there any,
right.
any other questions? Is there any public comment?
Okay.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. If you refer back to 26 on here, I don't have any problem with the building, and it sounds like the railroads and everybody are in tune with that. My concerns are that there still will be a geographical investigation, earthquake faults, bisect, or I'm sorry, how do they put that? Earthquake, a USGS linear earthquake fault map show a fault line bisecting the property. And there are some considerations towards the FEMA flood zone, and those things would all have to be mitigated for. And then down here, material damage or project properties. Environmental review, I hope, will be part of the considerations. And those are really my only observations about this, other than the mapping's a little unclear as far as where everything is, and that would be helpful to me to have a better understanding of it all, but best of luck on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further comment? Heather? Or Stephen? How about Stephen?
Stephen Pote, Development Engineering for the record. So yeah, the two things that were pointed out were there is, according to the USGS fault maps, there's a fault line bisecting the site. Where the maps show it is not in the direct vicinity of the stuff that's being built. However, those maps were drawn at a very large scale, so there's a lot of variability in where those are. So it doesn't mean that it can't be built. Even if the fault line was there, sometimes the age of the fault, and sometimes you can use other mitigation to take care of it if there is an issue with the fault line. On the FEMA flood zone, there is an AH flood zone, which in reviewing the satellite imagery from FEMA and comparing that to the plan, it looks like the construction is probably outside of that zone. However, there might be some grading or something needed that might extend into that. So it'd be very minimal, and it'd be easy to handle with the process. Would probably be like a Clomar F, which is just filling in a flood zone.
Okay. Commissioner Preston?
Yeah, I have a question on this, because this is actually state land or museum land. And so they usually have their own public works rather than a building department. And that the special use permits are something they do get from us because we're in the city and we've already seen this and seen, quite a bit of it, but we're only looking at the setbacks, right? So the question is would, for instance, the state of Nevada Public Works look at those, do the seismic and the FEMA would be under that? Because would it have to be under our municipal code, or which is adopted in Carson City, or is it under another?
So in terms of the comments that were provided by Development Engineering in this section of the staff report, it's an information item for the state because, as you probably know, they don't come to the city for building permits. So it's not a condition of approval because they're not coming to us for any action after the special use permit. So, but I can turn it over to the applicant to explain what their process is after this.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
For the record, Mark Burgess, State Public Works Project Manager. We are aware of the FEMA and the seismic zone. There already has
Bring your
been,
mic a little closer.
there already has been a seismic study. They've done their geotechnical report, and LGA has taken into account the FEMA floodplain in the design.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, per NRS, if the use does not exist prior to, it's a certain month in 1971, I can't think what that month is. Do you know? I think it might be March 1971. It's a date. Then the city may take jurisdiction for zoning purposes. So what you have today is a special use permit before you, which obviously is a tool that we use under the zoning ordinance. And so to the extent engineering had comments based on things like fault lines or like the floodplain, although we're not issuing the building permit, in order to make the findings of fact for the special use permit, development engineering certainly could have comments that would then be incorporated into a construction permit. But it's really that NRS section that says the use didn't exist prior to whatever that date was. I believe it was 1970 or 71. 71. Am I making it up? I'm pretty close. Anyhow, that's why we rarely see state projects, because they're rarely doing brand new things, and this is highly unusual that they're doing this. And okay, so I just wanted to give that extra explanation in case development engineering ever does come in with comments that will be incorporated into the actual construction plan.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do. I was curious of the construction. Is it slab on grade? Is it wood? Is it steel studs? What's the structure made out of?
For the record, Mark Burgess, State Public Works. It's slab on grade, and it's, pardon me, I'm standing in for the other project manager. It is stick frame, correct? Yep, wood stick framed.
Got it. And then will those be manned all the time, like a work week? 8 to 3, 9 to 4. Are there going to be people in each one of those units, manning a station, handing out brochures? Or if they're not, do the doors get locked? They leave brochures on the windowsill out front? How does that work?
Brenda Scolari for the record. To be honest, we don't have all of the lease terms worked out yet. We're working with state lands to get the leases in place. And once we have the vendors selected, we'll be working out operation schedules. Obviously, we'd like to guarantee that we have a presence there as much as possible, but we also don't want to interfere with the operation of the museum and the train. So we'll have a published schedule as soon as we can.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Preston?
I did have one other question too, is with the vendors, one of the things that I've heard about that people have been, wondering is that, yes, it's outdoor recreation, and we understand that we have the trail from Carson City to Canada now. And we have a lot of the trails that tie in with the Tahoe Rim Trail, which could be biking, hiking, horses, which is great. I did see something in here for whitewater. We do have a whitewater trail, and people aren't aware of it. It's the Carson River, and it's very seasonal, and we don't have an operator on that. So my question would be is, how much is this going to actually benefit a lot of the existing vendors that are at Lake Tahoe? Because one of the things that I noticed, because I do a lot of work on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe, we don't have that many California vendors, maybe something like the Clear Kayak people. We've got them. We've got some of the kayaks that have concessionaires at, for instance, Round Hill or Sand Harbor or Nevada Beach. But as far as like power boats, parasailing, ATVs, snowmobiles, those are all California vendors. Are you going to be working with California vendors to take the tourists from Carson City into the California part of the basin?
Brenda Scolari for the record. Because I'm in state service for Nevada, we're of course very partial to Nevada businesses. We hope to help the stewardship of the lake in every way possible and reduce the footprint by operating tours. But as I said, that mix of the vendors is going to be very important. I know we have many Tahoe businesses already interested. So because we have so few units and so many businesses lining up, that's going to be a tough job to decide which ones are important and how long the lease, what the lease terms will be. We'll obviously have to rotate them out and have a standard for how they're operating, how well their businesses are doing, how many times a week they take people out, all of it. But we'll certainly make all of those processes public and be looking for input along the way.
Okay, and I'd like to remind everybody that our mission here is to decide if the building's too tall and if it encroaches.
Right.
We're not, we are certainly interested in the project. I think that's why you're getting the questions, but that's not the issue before us right now. Are there any other further comments from the staff, from the council?
I was just going to add that would these be like satellite offices for those vendors, those, touristy kind of things to do?
Brenda Scolari for the record. Yes, I believe in many cases, these will be considered a satellite operation, which we believe is a good thing because in many cases, they'll be hiring additional staff to be there.
Okay. Any more discussion? I'll take a motion. Oh, I'd asked for public comment. We already had it. Can I have a motion, please, then, from someone?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I move to approve LU-2025-0011 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of the approval included in the staff report.
Is there a second? Okay, it's a motion by Commissioner Cron, a second by Commissioner, what's her name? Preston. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good luck with your project. Good luck with your project.
Item 6C. Shift change. MPA 2023-0408, discussion and possible action regarding the adoption of a resolution to recommend to the Board of Supervisors the adoption of an updated master plan.
Thank you, Hope Sullivan, the Community Development Director. We had thought that we would be coming forward tonight with a resolution. I am not ready for a resolution. I think we will be ready for a resolution next meeting. I had the pleasure of meeting with Commissioner Cron, who had been on vacation, and he had a lot of comments on the map, which I'm going to review with you. And then I reread the code, or the master plan draft one more time. I'd like to just go through that one more time with you. But before we do that, I'm really happy to see Leanne Sarum here, because I want to go through sort of what's happened in terms of development since 2005. And you've seen a lot of this PowerPoint before, but I think it's always good to kind of remind ourselves, since the original master plan, and we're now doing an update, what's gone on physically in the city. So again, thank you to Mackenzie Ray, who handles my PowerPoints for me and does a spectacular job. So since 2005, so 20 years, 2005 to 2025, we've had a lot of residential development and entitlements all over the city. Look at this map, it's everywhere. This is a really interesting bar graph to me. What this shows you is that for those first 10 years, from 2005 to 2015, there wasn't a whole lot going on. And then Chuck Borders got put on the Planning Commission, just kidding. But no, really, things picked up in 2015. And you can see that both with this bar graph and with the chart. And it is more growth in the latter 10 years of the 20 years than the first 10 years by a significant amount. And we are hearing a lot from the community, oh, the growth, the growth, the growth. And you all serve as the Growth Management Commission, and you're aware of where we are in terms of growth in relation to the capacity of our systems. So I understand your perspective, but I can also understand the perspective of the community when you have 10 years of really nothing happening and then all of a sudden this. This is a snapshot that gives you the numbers. So in terms of that 20-year period, fully constructed single-family units was 938, or I believe those are the lots. No, fully constructed. Then we have 574 lots that are under construction. We have 190 lots that exist that there's no construction has commenced. And then we have a lot of lots that are just inactive projects, and we're going to go through that briefly. So in terms of residential projects that have been fully constructed, again, going from north to south, it's all over the place. It wasn't focused in a single part of the city. So this is alphabetical, so when we get to the S's, you'll know we're near the end. Anderson Townhomes, that was a nice infill project over on East Robinson, 7 lots. Autumn Village Senior Apartments, this was an older one, 2007, with the entitlement in 2005 for 42 units. Bella Lago Apartments, they added 64 units to their existing apartment complex back in 2016. Carson Hills Apartments, new construction behind Galaxy Fandango, 370 units down south. Emerson Cottages, that was in 2022, 2023, 42 lots, an infill project just south of the freeway off Emerson. The Fish Apartments, another infill project on North Carson, 36 units. Jackson Village, another infill project, 41 lots behind JCPenney. Marlette Apartments, again infill on Lil Lane, 140 units. Mills Landing, this is across the street from Mills Park off State Street, 105 units that was entitled in 2017. Nichols Lane, that's on it's on Nichols Lane. It's behind a nursing home that's on 50, and this was 8 units. It was an infill project, and you'll keep hearing me say it was an infill project. Richards Crossing, another infill project on Janelle in 2015. Roseview Townhomes over in Silver Oak by the park there, 52 units. That was recent in 2023. The Roundhouse, this is one of 3 hotels that were lawfully converted into apartments. They were, to a certain extent, operating as apartments, but not lawfully. And so they did get their building permits, their fire permits. They made all the necessary improvements to be lawful dwellings. So now this is lawfully 40 apartment units for workforce housing. Schultz Ranch subdivision down south, that was in 2014. So this was one of the leaders when that last 10 years happened. And that's built out of 416 lots, or single-family homes. Phase 5 came in a little bit later in 2020. It was part of it, then dropped out, and then joined it again. And that was 29 lots, fully constructed. Southgate Apartments is an older one, entitled in 2007. That's over on in the south end on California Street, and they added 48 units. Valley Springs Apartments is over on Hot Springs Road, 62 units. That's affordable housing. 323 Flats, this was the Stewart Street Inn, again, another hotel that was unlawfully serving as an apartment. They came in, they made their improvements, met the building code and the fire code, and now they are lawful apartment units serving workforce housing, 52 units. The Lander is now called 907 Flats, again, another hotel that's lawfully converted into apartments. This one's 37 units. In terms of residential projects under construction, Adams Estate is off Longview. They have 12 lots, and those are custom homes. Altair Apartments has broken ground. We're getting lots of inquiries on that. That's at William Street in Stewart, 207 units. It will be apartment units. Anderson Ranch subdivision over off Mountain going all the way through to Ormsby is 203 lots, approved in 2022, still under construction. Ash Canyon subdivision is just south of Anderson Ranch off Ormsby, 41 lots under construction. Blackstone Ranch North, that's 137 lots. And this one, I think, is America Homes for Rent. They just recorded their final map pretty recently. Brown Street Apartments, this is behind Slot World. Dwight Millard's been building apartment units over there. He'll do 81 units. He's completed his first phase, and he's to move on to the next phase. Cross Creek Subdivision, this is Ryder Homes, and in 2021, this was approved, so 119 lots across from the high school. Eagles Landing. This is the property that, oh no, this is on Roop. So this is the affordable housing, same people who did the project over on Hot Springs. So this is on Roop and Northridge. And so this is under construction. It will be 126 units of affordable housing. Lil Lane Village, Bates Homes is building this. This was a really interesting project, but they're going steady. It was entitled in 2021. They are not built out yet. Mills Meadow, this is Lennar purchased some of the lots over at Lampa from Ryder, and it was 70 lots, and so they are still under construction over there at Lampa Ranch. Plateau Development is way out east. Practically, you can see the county line on the slide, and they are doing infrastructure improvements right now, 270 lots. Sierra Flats Apartment over on Bud-Eye Way, that's the land the city made available for affordable housing, and they are still under construction. They're really, really close to being done. Silvercrest Condos is down south. This was a condominium project that Roger Renford was doing, 51 units, and it is not built out yet. Silver Oaks is going steady still, but they have 2 phases left. They're getting close to the end. Silverview Townhomes is off Silver Sage, and 34 units, again, an infill project. Projects that have been approved, but they haven't commenced construction yet. And again, a spattering throughout the city. Blackstone Ranch Phase 2. This is actually, we're going to talk about this as part of the master plan. No, we're not. This is the west side. Okay, so this is a subdivision that got approved a while ago, 2020. Oh, I think it got reapproved maybe in 2023. And so this is 204 lots. Blackstone Ranch off Railroad. This one got approved a while ago in 2019. Their challenge is trying to cross that linear park because they have to connect to Fifth. And so they're working with the state parks and our own parks department to kind of sort through that. But that will likely go under construction soon. Border Crossing subdivision, that's off Silver Sage as well. And that project will probably start soon. The owner of that is the owner who did the townhomes right across the street, and he plans to do the same product and just cross the street and do that. So that will be 28 units. East Nye Lane, nothing's really happening on this one. This got approved back in 21 for 61 lots. This is across from the airport off College. It's a pretty big piece of land. I think it's 16 acres if I remember, but we haven't seen permits come in for this. Silver Oak Apartments, you've seen this a couple times off G.S. Richards Boulevard, 178 units. It will expire in 2026. We haven't seen the building applications yet. Stafford Way Apartments, I'm surprised to see this because I thought this would go under construction, but it hasn't, and it will expire in June 2025. Inactive projects, again, a handful. Arbor Villas. Arbor Villas built out a lot of the units. The lots exist. It's now for sale, and so there it seems to be interest, but until somebody purchases it, we're not going to see activity there to finish or complete the project. Clearview Ridge subdivision is down south off Cochise. They built the infrastructure. These are really small lots. I feel like they're maybe 3,500 square foot lots and 73 of them, but we haven't seen any building permits come in to go vertical. Lampa Ranch North Apartments, this is the one you're going to see as part of the master plan. This was approved for 306 units back in 2022. They did start grading, but they stopped work. So this project has kind of stopped. Lampa West Apartments, this is on 5th and Salomon. They did some infrastructure improvements, which you can see in the picture, but we haven't seen any permits come in to go vertical. In Ross Park Cottages, this got approved in 2017. They built the infrastructure, but they have not gone vertical. In terms of non-residential development, the chair asked me about a project, and I said, oh, I'm going to tell you all about some projects. So I always tell you about the residential stuff, so I thought I'd tell you about some non-residential stuff before I start getting into the meat of the master plan. This is only active non-residential projects. We didn't go back to 2005. So what you'll see here is Sierra Tahoe RV and boat storage over on Airport Road. So this is actually pretty close to Lampa. So you can see to the east of it is Bud-Eye Way, and that will be an RV and boat storage facility. And this is part of the Lampa East project. Sprouts and Planet Fitness are under construction over between Home Depot and Walmart in the north part of the city. There's airport hangars get built all the time, actually. So there is an airport hangar right now under construction. There's a motorcycle storage facility under construction on Boeing Way, so up near the airport, near Commissioner Brooks' area. El Centro is building a new market, and they'll be near the CVS on Highway 50, next in that vacant lot. Panda Express is under construction on North Carson. It's the west side of North Carson. Guthrie's is under construction and it looks like it's almost done to me. It's near Costco off Clear Creek. Hobby Lobby, everyone's waiting. My neighbor is a quilter, and she says, my friends know I know you. When will it open? I don't know when it will open. And everyone's waiting for Hobby Lobby, trust me. All the crafters want Hobby Lobby to open. It is under construction, but we're not certain when it will be open. There is a warehouse under construction on Mallory Way, which Mallory is near Lowe's, kind of one block off. It's parallel to Fairview. There's a Home Suites under construction on the east side of North Carson, near the Holiday Inn Express, I think. And Aspen Dental, when Buffalo Wild Wings went out of business and this construction started on this building, everyone said, what's going in? And it's Aspen Dental, and I think there's another tenant space in there. Okay, and that's the fun stuff now, the not fun stuff. Okay, so for the master plan, I want to talk about the master plan map updates because there's some changes. Most come from Commissioner Cron, but he gave me about 15 to look into. Luckily, not all 15 will be before you tonight, but I will go through my suggestions to see what you think. On this APN, this is on Lampa West, and I believe it's a 10-acre park site. Actually, this might be east. No, this is west. It's a 10-acre park site, and the current master plan was amended to designate this for a park site. But I think what happened was the consultant got the existing master plan before that update occurred. But everyone knows this has to be a park site, and I think it needs to be designated as a park site on the new master plan map. Similarly, this is the east side of Lampa. Again, I think it's a 3-acre park site. Everyone agrees this needs to be where the park is. It's going to be, I think they agreed to a dog park, if I remember right. But the existing master plan calls this out as a park site, and in the new master plan map, I believe it should be called out as a park site. I'll just keep going, Mr. Chair, if that's okay.
Please, go ahead.
These properties are all designated open space, but the master plan map was not showing them as open space, so we'll change this to open space. This is state land south of Schneider, and so it should be changed to be designated as state land. This is also state land. It's the basin next to the freeway interchange, so that should be redesignated as state land. Another piece of state land that should be designated as state land. One more, state land should be designated as state land. This outlined in the blue is Washoe tribe land, so it should be designated accordingly. We just talked about it, Emerson Cottages. It's a built-out project. You'll see the red indicates it's being designated as a commercial use. That's existing master plan. It should be high-density residential. That's what the use is, and it's just easier to designate it what it's built out as. This one I want to talk to you about. This is the area behind Sassafras. We look at this piece of land quite often. It's about 30-something acres, I think. It's 36 acres,
Somebody
maybe.
answer their phone, please.
Okay, thank you. I believe it's 34, 36 acres. It's a big piece of land. It's an interesting piece of land because it's at the end of, it's next to a piece of land that's owned by the airport. The planes are pretty low at this point when they're flying over this piece of land. The airport's very concerned about this piece of land because of the flight path. They don't want a lot of people. And as you read the text of the master plan, throughout the text of the master plan, we read about compatibility with the airport and that we need to make sure we don't have tall buildings where the flight path is and that we don't want uses that have a lot of people where the flight path is. And so right now, this is a commercial designation. We do have industrial to the south. You have low-density residential to the west. You have the airport to the east, and you have open space to the north. And so this may be an area where we just want to go industrial with it because it's going to be a noisy area, and industrial can be noisy and can tolerate noise. Industrial doesn't necessarily mean a lot of people, whereas something else could mean that. And it's just something I think we need to figure out what this is. So I'll be looking for input, and I've got one more I'm looking for input on. This is, oh, I didn't know I was going right to this one. I wasn't ready for that one. Let me go to this one first. I want input on this one. Okay, Fairview and Salomon. So, and we'll talk a little more about this during the text, but you'll remember when we were talking about the land use categories, and we were at the hub, and we came up with this idea called flex. We didn't know what to call it, but we called it flex. And flex, when we talked about it initially, we talked about it in terms of sort of a commercial use that could tolerate low-intensity industrial. Well, the consultants in drafting this have sort of reframed it, but I think they did a good job with it. And the way they've sort of reframed it is as flex industrial. So it's sort of a low industrial area that can tolerate commercial. And so in looking at the area around Fairview and Salomon, and what you're looking at is sort of Fairview going from the interchange with 580 to Carson Street. And if you drive that, which I did do multiple times, it's a really interesting assortment of businesses, starting with Snap-on Tools. And it's a lot of smaller industrial type storage things. So I feel like that stretch, and I wouldn't include the Lowe's, but that stretch makes sense for this flex industrial. Also, that area on Mallory, and I don't know if any of you have driven Mallory. Mallory's a dead-end street, and that's where that warehouse is under construction, but that's also very light industrial in there. And so I feel like that's a good spot for the flex. What is less, what we keep talking about, just like we keep talking about that piece behind the hot springs, is that area, if you go south on Salomon, and if you look at the existing master plan, you can see it's a bit of a hodgepodge. So we have sort of a mixed use, and then it transitions to a residential. But if you actually go there, you have storage facility, you have storage units in there, like outdoor storage. You have some interesting things going on there on Salomon. But you also have a residential area there. And so the question is, should that be the flex designation as well, coming down that first block of Salomon south of Fairview? And a lot of that land is vacant, and right behind it is outdoor storage. But you also have, Park Mason Mobile Home Park is over there as well. And so I'm kind of thinking, if we look at the existing master plan, that residential on the corner should probably stay intact. But the other pieces of it could potentially go to that flex industrial. So I think I want to talk a little bit about that and make sure that you're good with the stretch on Fairview. And now I'll go to this one, which this is actually a request we received. And when I was showing you the maps, and I maybe didn't flag it, there's actually, yeah, I did flag it because I told you there was grading, but the project stopped. What you have outlined in blue on this one is it's in Lampa East, and it's actually a mixed zone right now. So a portion of this land is zoned for high-density residential, and a portion of it is zoned for medium-density residential. Because it has a mixed zone, they were able to obtain a special use permit for apartments on this piece of land. It doesn't appear that anyone's pursuing that project. That was one of the projects that's not active. There is interest in pursuing a different apartment project on this piece of land. And the applicant had the intention of coming in and requesting a master plan amendment to designate this as high-density residential. The applicant's intention was to come in April. The master plan update's going to the board in May. So I said, well, let me just include it as part of the update, and I'll bring it to the planning commission so they can take a look at it. What you'll see is the property just to the north of it is designated for high-density residential. Again, that green area just south of the intersection of Airport Road and, well, it's Airport and Budeye, is where that 3-acre dog park is supposed to go. And then south of that is the storage facility that is under construction. I think those are all the map things. Yes. So should we stop before I get to text and talk about,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Commissioner Crone?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to start the conversation. I really didn't have any concerns or issues until we got to the one, that piece of property we're looking at now, off of Old Hot Springs Road. If I recall right, there's been a lot of grading that has happened in there. Is that correct?
There was a special use permit for an RV park. They did construct a driveway to go into the property. And my understanding is when the freeway was constructed, they started piling the fill there, which is why there's some grade differentials. But I think this commission in the last few years has seen like 3 different proposals for RV parks on this piece of land. The airport hasn't been thrilled with that because RV parks mean people and they have airplanes there. And so, but yes, there's been a lot of proposals on this property. There have been improvements for the entryway to this property, and there is fill on this property.
You'd propose possibly changing this to industrial, basically to match, I'm assuming what's close by. Are they less, how do they feel about an industrial zoning where you're gonna have, probably some sort of big, larger tilt-up box kind of facilities?
Are you talking about the property to the west?
Yes.
The impact on the residential?
Yeah.
Right, and I thought about that too. That's why this is a really hard piece of property to figure out what to do with because of that. My thinking was on the industrial, there's the opportunity for buffering and shielding. And it also tends not to have evening hours or weekend hours, which might create compatibility. This is a hard one. I don't think commercial is the right answer. Residential, I don't think is the right answer. And that's all because of that airport right there.
Commissioner Preston?
All right, if we're going to start with this one right here. This one right here, since the master plan and so forth, was one of the few areas that was tourist commercial in the whole area. This was this one and a small space over at Gold Dust West were the only ones that were allowed to have RV parks, period, for years. And I do know that the Sheehan's have sold it, but they put a large investment in that property, and I know they sold it for a large amount of money. So taking this away and taking away the RV use may be, detrimental to their investment. So I'm going to put that on the record because this had been this way forever. And like you said, we've approved several of them under special use permits. This is not something we did not see before. So on that one, When I look at flex space industrial, I'm looking at things with 14, 16-foot doors. I'm looking for heights that are higher than an RV and higher than a house. So to me, that doesn't make sense in order to do the residential, the retail, the flex space. So that's number one. Okay. Number two, the Fairview. That Fairview.
Let's do them one at a time.
Oh, we're gonna do Hot Springs just the
Yeah.
one. And so the other thing is though too is I do want to make a statement. I do not want to limit it to these because just cursory looking over the map, I found 4 other areas that Vern did not even bring up that are designated as parks and all sorts of other things that are not. Okay.
Okay, and also just 2 items real quick. I did meet with Lindsay Boyer, who's the head of open space, and she did identify some map corrections, which may not be reflected in the document. So I just want to let you know I have provided the consultant with other corrections that I received from Lindsay. And the other thing is, we do have a postcard that's going to go out to every single solitary owner of property in Carson City, advising them of your public hearing for next month and advising them to go to the Envision Carson City website where they can see this land use map and they can contact us. So I did want you to know that we are doing that outreach, and that postcard will probably go out, if not this week, next week.
Commissioner Purcell?
I have to agree with Hope's recommendation on this parcel. Between the issues that involved the McCarran Airport and at that point in time, Commissioner Sisolak down in Las Vegas, and the Supreme Court decision, I think anything you can do to remove the possibility of creating issues with the airport, aside from having property owners agree to avigation easements, anything you can reduce the potential for loss of life in the event of an accident. Typically, you do see those types of uses in these areas associated with airport runways. The concern being if you have residences there, they could be there, in all hours of the day, and the same thing with commercial uses, they tend to be an attractant. Hope's correct, and industrial uses typically are quiet on the weekends and off hours, off-peak hours, work hours. So I agree with her assessment on this particular property.
If we make it a industrial area, then it would, if you wanted to build an industrial park out there, you'd still be subject to an FAA height clearance requirement. And we can
Yes.
also put that in the permit when it shows up. So I tend to agree. I've always had squirrely feelings about this piece of property because if you're making an approach to this runway, you're not very high at that point. And if there's any kind of weather or anything, you're not high at all. And if you're taking off the other way, you're right there where all airplanes stop flying. And I don't think it fits a commercial. I'm not sure it fits flex either. So
Oh, no, I would suggest the industrial, not the flex. And you're right about the FAA. What would happen is prior to construction, the contractor would need to get what's called a determination of no hazard from the FAA to verify that it wasn't creating a hazard to the airport.
Commissioner Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have the history of some of the other commissioners with this property, but hearing that it had come up with potential uses several times, I suppose I'm worried that a current or future landowner faced with overly limiting restrictions would have have at least a potential case for it being a government taking. So I like the idea of zoning it something that is broad, like industrial, allows for a variety of potential uses within that as long as they're going to clear the FAA guidelines and whatever special use permits. My specific question for Hope is, do we have other examples in the city where industrial property of significant size like this was abutting a residential area, and what those additional buffering measures looked like?
We actually have it if you go up Gonai north of the airport on the east side of Gonai. You have a pretty significant industrial area, and then just north of that industrial area is a residential area. And then actually, if you go a little bit farther north, I think it's a Cinderlight pit. So in that case, I'd have to look at exactly how those transitions worked. I think there were some topographical changes there, if I remember correctly. But I'd have to look at those. But we would certainly, again, throughout the whole master plan, it talks about looking for compatibility when you're putting things in infill development and adjacent to residential. And some of the obvious answers are you're looking at setback requirements like we just talked about. You could look at landscaping or buffering or fencing, things like that.
The other thing I think, Hope, when we were looking at this as an RV park, that the residents in that residential area did come in and talk to us. And it was the fact that site is so well raised that if you're 20 feet from the property line, the complaint from the homeowners was everybody's looking in my backyard. And so part of the requirements for that RV park when it got approved was that they had to increase that buffer to like 40 or 60 feet on that side so that they wouldn't have that problem. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, even if it's industrial, we're still going to hear those kinds of things, and we're still going to have to address how they move away from that residential area. I think the new master plan addresses that a whole lot clearer than the old one did, and it gives us some flexibility in doing that. So, I don't know. How do you want to proceed with it? You want to?
If you're just, I don't need a vote. If you're just I'm just looking for direction. So
Okay.
I'm just trying to remember. Commissioner Pizell spoke, Preston spoke, you spoke, Brooks spoke. Did Cron speak? Okay.
I was just thinking, if it's industrial park, can that be different things on the property? So like say on the west side, maybe do some kind of storage that is not, there's no one there, and it's a buffer, no noise, because those residents on the west side, they got to look at something. I mean, and they don't want anyone looking down in their backyards, can't blame them. And then if you could do multiple use in that, calling it an industrial park, you could probably have some of that industrial type of business. Of course, with FAA height requirements met, all that kind of thing. It's a big piece of property. We've all seen it. It is elevated. But I thought if you could do a few different things in a business park, you could get your buffer, you could still get your industrial building businesses in there as well.
Okay, I think, I should have told you this at the beginning. So now that I have that input, and we have two more to talk about, but with the others that you seem to agree with, they seem kind of like no-brainers. What I'll do is in the resolution I prepare for you, I will call these items out so the public will see that when they get the packet, and
Okay.
they can speak specifically to it. I think I'm going to save that one for last. If you want to talk about Fairview and Solomon.
I like that approach.
The
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 one you're
flex and
recommending,
keep the
flex in here,
residential at that
yes.
corner?
Yep.
Okay, anybody else?
This is the one that over about a year ago, we went ahead and changed all this zoning. And so that's what kind of perplexing to me. But at the same point, I vote yay on this. The reason is that it brings it back to being, Fairview is a wide road. It was originally supposed to be the arterial for the freeway, which it is. And if we continue to go ahead and encourage people to come to our downtown, the only ways that they can get off and on the freeway, we have three entrances, the Highway 50, Fairview, North Carson, and South Carson. So you have the 4. So this again is a gateway, and initially it was supposed to be a gateway when we didn't think we had enough money to finish the freeway. So this makes sense to me, and I do appreciate the fact that I'm going to assume that the red is general commercial up there at the freeway interchange, because I have felt very strongly that there should be some kind of a freeway support, be it a gas station or whatever, in a commercial area off an arterial, off that interchange. So, no, I'm voting yay.
Commissioner Crone?
Hope, generally, I tend to agree with Commissioner Terry. And I like the commercial around I like the zoning commercial around the freeway interchange. That looks good. It's just some of this other miscellaneous parcels that show up. We've got residential that seems to show up in, we've got the residential on the south side. As you come off the freeway, you've got the trailer park, or not trailer park, but the mobile home park. And then further down, you've got Quail Run.
That's way further
How
down.
does that play into just kind of a land use, what's being proposed? How does, it's a mixed bag there, and I don't disagree with where you're going, but I'm just concerned about the people who are there, and all of a sudden may have different uses show up than what they had planned on originally, or at least they assumed were going to be there.
Right, and so it is a hodgepodge over there. It's quite interesting when you actually drive it and you look and you're like, and they have a beautiful trail too. You go to the end there, and I've said there's Burton's Trail. But I think if we look at that corner area, which is residential, it's I can't see what that street is. It might be Colorado.
Yes, it's Colorado.
Okay, Colorado. Okay, so on the northeast corner of Colorado, I think if that goes residential, I feel like then the other can, and we protect the manufactured home park. I think that other area south of Solomon, north of Colorado, south of Fairview, north of Colorado, I think that can go flex. And I hate it because you have this tiny like ice island of residential, but when you're in the field, it feels right. And so I'm just put that, but it's not an easy one, which is why I want your input.
Okay, Commissioner Pizzo?
Thank you. I have to agree with Commissioner Preston, and not just to make up for the last parcel. But I live in this area, and Hope's absolutely right. It's not just Fairview, it's also that stretch of Solomon down to Colorado. She's right, there's a small strip mall right there on the corner of Solomon and Fairview. And I don't know how it continues to exist, but with the exception of the corner market. But it's interesting, the manufactured home park, actually, all the access is out onto Colorado, and they actually have a perimeter block wall on the remaining sides of the property. So it essentially is buffered off from somewhat with whatever occurs on that lower portion of the parcel that runs from Solomon down to Colorado. And from Fairview on, all the way to the interchange, she's right, it's a mixture of buildings, a mixture of uses, running from a gym to what used to be the charter school and now is converted over to something else. Michael Hull has a building there. They hold his vehicles in. There's a linen, so it's just a real mishmash. But at the same time, you could see a lot of those properties converting over into other uses. And I think this particular land use designation would capture a lot of things that could potentially use that strip, because it does have a lot of average daily trips, and it is highly visible. And I think this particular land use designation gives the property owner a lot of options to explore.
Commissioner Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'll add my voice to the chorus. What I like about this is, one of the trickier land use planning situations is what's sort of infill land use designation, right? Where you have to, well, you don't have to, but I believe it's good practice to follow the character of where the neighborhood is going anyway, and not try and radically change that. And it strikes me that this does it. And I know that keeping with the character is I would say it's probably important to all the commissioners. I know some commissioners put up very high value on that, and I respect it. The thing I personally like is we're giving it a land use designation that allows a lot of options for property owners, which is important in my priorities. So yeah, along with everybody else who's spoken so far, I like this idea.
Okay. One more? Last chance.
Okay, I want to go back to the other map, to the Fairview map. Okay, there is one area right here that I did find that has a problem, and that's the area where the Carson Mall is. And along that area, you have this downtown mixed use, and we were originally going to make that into the commercial. And to run that down, and then the one property that you and I discussed before, you still show that as a public, it is not as private. It's 1300 at 1300 Curry. And then you also show the private at being public where the lot is. I realize it's a power type of thing behind Max. Right, that is marked as public and it is not. And then so all of that area down there, basically from the mall down to the roundabout should be general commercial. That's where we had decided that that was going to be on that one, because it wasn't going to be downtown mixed use, because it was because of the existing uses that were there. That's why we actually kind of, when I look at it, I looked at it as a poster child for the community on what continued to stay and work.
Okay, we'll probably call it corridor mixed use because the general commercial is a zoning district, not a land use designation. Okay.
Corridor mixed use, I'm sorry, because that would include the fast food restaurants, gas stations, and so forth that exist in that area.
Commissioner Crone?
Yeah, this is completely, well, it's not off topic because we're looking at this, but if you look at the colors on the existing master plan and the proposed master plan, I think the proposed master plan colors are stronger and more delineated than what the existing plan is. And I know that's been a concern of many commissioners up here, is that sometimes those colors are very, the tones are so close that it's hard to distinguish between what's one use and what's another use. And so I guess, I don't know if we're quite there yet, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
All right. You got the
Okay,
last one?
the last one, this is in Lampa. Again, right now, there's an entitlement on this property for an apartment complex. The land use designation is medium-density residential, and the request that we've received that actually I think makes sense is for high-density residential. You'll see across Airport Road, you do have some single-family residential, but if we go back to the conversation we had about Fairview, Airport Road's a pretty significant width there. So you do have the single-family on Desatoya going north, but you already have multifamily designation to the north of this property. You have multifamily over across the street on Bud-Eye. You'll have the dog park and open space to the south and the storage facility, and then the freeway to the west. So I guess we can I can hear from your comments, or I suspect there's public comment on this one you may want to listen to before you weigh in. It's up to you. And then this is my last mapping question. So it's up to the chair if you'd like to take public comment on maps, and then we get into the text.
Well, yeah. I don't think we need to debate everything that we're talking about. But I do know that there was some criticism voiced on this because it looked like it was a backdoor deal. And
It was not a backdoor
I
deal,
underst-
and that's why I'm being very, very transparent about it. It
I
just makes no
understand that.
sense to take in an application in April when a master plan is going to be adopted
Yes.
in May.
That's right. and I agree with you, but let's talk about it. Commissioner Preston? I'm sorry, Commissioner Prime?
Thank you. Actually, when we had the opportunity as commissioners to look at the large-scale map and come in and talk to staff about our individual questions or recommendations, this is one of the ones that I actually thought made more sense to go high-density residential, given the existing development, even above the parcel, the vacant parcel above this one, all the way up to the commercial development that fronts on US 50. All of that is multifamily. And then you've got the development on Bud Eye that the city has participated in. It just made more sense. And then when I talked to Hope and Heather, when we talked about my recommendations and questions, that was when I first learned that there was actually an entitlement on the property that would allow for that type of density through a conditional use permit. So, to me, that this particular change on this particular parcel to a higher density residential just makes sense.
Commissioner Preston?
And my question on this is, we have already seen 2 proposals on this for special use permit. And the one went away for a while, but then we had a gentleman come in here from, I believe it was Tanamera, and that's when we started figuring out the dog park and that little funny little piece of land in the corner and all that type of thing. And correct me if I'm wrong, I thought we had approved it for high density at that twice.
This currently has an entitlement for apartments on it, and the entitlement is alive.
Well, I just think that if we had done nothing and 2 months from now they came in and asked for a master plan change, we would have granted it. I think everything given the way it is, I think we would have granted it. So I don't have a problem with this one.
Okay, is there more, or would
Greg,
you like me to go to
Mr.
the text?
Commissioner Peterson?
Thanks. What's the zoning in it right now?
Not
Because
zoning, it's land use.
Okay, what's land use?
The land use designation right now is medium density, but because the zoning was a split zone, when you have a split zone, you can seek a special use permit to utilize the entire parcel for a use that's allowed in one of the zoning districts. So there's an apartment complex that's currently approved on this project, on this property, sorry. And so actually, just by that mere fact, it kind of makes sense to go multifamily, because then you're just creating consistency with the entitlement. But
I just don't have the history
that's
on
okay.
it that you guys do have. So I'm just curious, there were past requests here and there. So I'm just trying to get up to speed on what it was and what we want it to be.
Commissioner Crone?
Yeah, if we do go with a high-density residential, the question I have is why is the applicant coming forward at this point? Because if he's already zoned for high-density residential, why is he coming forward to do the master plan amendment? I guess I'm still not getting my head wrapped around that.
The applicant's actually present, and I suspect will speak under public comment, so I'll just let the applicant speak to that.
Okay, then the question becomes is, if we do this, does he have to come back, or does the applicant have to come back to the planning commission? The reason I'm asking is that if within the master plan itself, the one that we're currently looking at, there is a section in here, page 107 and 108, and it talks about the characteristics of a high residential development designation. And so you talk about density, you talk about location, you talk about building, the massing and form, a neighborhood commercial uses and access and circulation. Does that now, and I'm not trying to be a bureaucrat here, but I guess what I'm trying to do is to say, how does this work? Is he going to be, lack of a better term, grandfathered into his project and not having the master plan apply to his project because it's already been approved? Or if he's asking for the high residential, I guess this is just it's, I understand what we're trying to do to help the applicant. I get that. But, okay,
I'm going to disagree with that.
okay,
I'm not trying to help an applicant,
okay, sorry.
actually. Independent of my knowing anything about this project, the applicant had met with the staff, and the staff had been supportive of this project. I really had nothing to do with it. This commission has approved apartments here. What you're looking at, and you very well could have said no to apartments here, but you didn't. You said yes. And you said yes based on the existing code. And the existing code in the development standards include supplemental standards for multifamily apartments. A lot of standards, including open space requirements, all sorts of stuff. And so so the question before you right now is, does it make sense when looking at this area outlined in blue for this to be designated as multifamily, or should it be medium density? What information do we have? We know that there's an entitlement on this piece of property for apartments. We also know, and I'm going to let the applicants speak for themselves because my knowledge is actually rather superficial, but the tiny bit I understand is that's not the project they want to build, and they're going to modify it to a different apartment project, but that's neither here nor there. The question is, should this be multifamily or should it be medium density? And honestly, the way I look at this, it's very isolated to me. It's near a dog park. It's south, as Commissioner Pizell was talking about. You have multifamily going north till you get to Gold Dust West. You have the open space to the south, the freeway. And so that's why we're having this conversation.
Even with, even if we did nothing, the applicant still has an entitlement based on Title 18 to build high-density apartments on this lot.
The entitlement is alive for apartments, yes.
Yes, so given that happens and those apartments are there, then a year from now, when we do an annual update of the master plan, you will come to me and say, there's a high-density apartments on this land and it's not, the master plan doesn't agree with that. Let's amend the master plan. All right? I think all we're trying to do is to, if we know this is going to happen, let's amend let's don't amend it. Let's just do it now while we're doing it, and then build the apartments. We're chasing our tail, I think, and it's just okay. Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Commissioner Borders. What I would like to do is that I did not realize that we were going to be actually approving maps. And when I look,
You are not approving maps,
okay,
just
this
to be
is
clear.
no. This is what I want to make clear in all the way around. Okay, is had we come here today to adopt the master plan, I would have actually asked that we take the maps completely out of them until they're ready for review, because there are a lot of mistakes. I know there's not a park behind the Burger King over there on College Parkway. Now my other question is like the hospital. The hospital we had zoned that originally. They came up with that crazy employment thing that we said that was just nuts. We got rid of that. We changed it to medical. But now it's showing that is all public again. So that needs to be addressed. So what I'm asking and what I'm requesting is that the maps be looked at individually. We're able to take the time, make the changes that need to be done, and review them before we actually put this out. Because a lot of this text is text that we have gone through and is pretty clear. The little tiny dots on the map are the things that people are going to rely on, like this particular builder. And like we were looking at, in South Carson Street. So this to me, the maps to me are more important because people are typically visual. They're not going to open this book until they see what the color is and if they can do it. So I definitely ask
No,
that that be put
I think
aside.
that's point well taken, which is why you don't have a resolution before you tonight, because we do need to sort through this. That said, I would ask that anyone who's identified, and we can reach out to you, has identified mapping changes or corrections, that we meet before your next meeting so we can make sure, because we have to include the maps.
Can we request
month.
new big maps? Because
Yes.
we've already looked at the big maps. We made the changes and some of those changes didn't translate.
Understood, and I've had other changes, like I said, with Lindsay Boyer, and, Vern identified some things I just presented. So yes, after tonight, I'll give the consultants the input from the planning commission, request that they update the maps, and we will print new maps for each of you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to boil it down to my public education, 8th grade level comprehension, and I'm trying to do it for myself. I'm looking for input from my fellow commissioners, but I'm hoping this will be helpful for folks in the audience who are concerned about this issue. The question that we're looking at with this map, is it right to characterize it as a decision to conform our map to a previously existing reality because we have an entitlement on that property for high density? Is that a fair characterization? Okay, all right. So if we chose not to do that, that decision impacts this map. It doesn't impact that currently existing reality for the entitlement.
That is a correct statement.
Okay, thank you. That helps
But
me immensely.
I think we have to go back to what Commissioner Borders said. Because then what happens is when we have mapping, what we call mapping corrections. So
Right.
you have a land use a land use designation that's inconsistent with the actual land use. I then come forward and say, can we correct the map?
So it's pre-construction correction today via suggestion versus
Post-construction.
post-construction correction. Okay, I appreciate everyone's patience with my question.
Okay. Okay, you. Yeah, let's do that. Well, or if everybody's interested, we could wait 5 minutes and take a break. Yeah, okay. We'll adjourn until 10 till. we're back in order. All right, Hope.
Thank you. I will start going through text. Under acknowledgements, which is the very beginning, we need to add Commissioner Peterson, because he is with us now.
Okay.
Okay, so let me circle if you agree. And I will just keep going and you stop me when you disagree, okay?
All right.
I'm flipping.
Can we stop at 16?
Can we go to 3?
Yep.
Page 3, there's just a minor typo. The word border is misspelled. It's third to last line. And I'm not sure it's the border of Lake Tahoe or the border in Lake Tahoe.
It's still BORDER.
Yes, but I think the of should maybe be an in. So I'm just pointing that out to you to make sure. On page 4, I didn't know if, this is getting a little nitpicky, sorry, if check-in on the community was the right word or consultation with the community.
Yes.
I'm on, consultation's a yes?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
consultation, I think, is a yes. Check-in.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds
I don't
we're
like
renting a
check-in.
room.
Okay. I'm now on
And
page.
before you go any farther.
Yes,
One of the comments I'll have is, in all these little snapshot pictures,
yeah.
it looks like they use colored tape and put them through a Xerox machine. It looks amateurish.
Okay, I'll make a note. Fix photos,
And
quality.
No, the photos are fine. It's just the little bars on the top and the bottom.
Oh, fix photo bars.
See? And they're different kinds. Sometimes they're squiggly, sometimes they're not.
I'll say
It
fix
just looks
photo
like they
bars.
took all the pictures and just taped them down and then. took a
Okay,
picture of 'em.
consistency. Nice. Okay, got it.
Don't care.
My next one is on page 6. At the very, and I'm just gonna keep going until you stop me. Okay, at the very bottom, it says, it's talking about update the organization of the master plan, the goals and policies within the master plan were made to reinforce these areas of focus. And then it says, as well as the results of the listening sessions. That was just awkward. So I thought maybe it should say, as well as reflect the results of the listening sessions.
No,
No?
we're not gonna reflect them. We're gonna acknowledge them.
As well as acknowledge the results.
We didn't take everything everybody suggested to us.
No,
and
that's
put it in.
true. It just, with that, we needed a word there. So, okay, as well as acknowledge the results. Okay? Page 8. Commissioner Pizel pointed out that I overlooked that the NRS being cited is only for communities over 100,000. So if you're in a community over 100,000, you have to update your zoning to be consistent with the master plan within a year. We obviously are far less than 100,000, but I think we have the intent of updating
Yes.
everything. So I'm going to suggest adding at the bottom of page 8, a sentence that says, although Carson City, due to its size, is not required to amend the zoning within 1 year, it will begin conformity review upon plan adoption.
Okay.
Okay, am I good with it? Yes,
The page numbers, switch sides.
yeah, I've noticed that.
That binding in the future, is a final version of this gonna be double-sided or single-sided?
My staff knows I go crazy over double-sided. I always need everything single-sided. So I don't know, but I will note page number location. Okay. Okay, on page 10, I'm looking at the top right picture, number 7, and I don't know if that's Carson City. Does anybody recognize that? Is it?
No, that was one of the comments I had when we first got this, and they said they were gonna change that picture.
Okay, so let's replace that picture. And also, I thought on number 9, it would be nice to have a trail photo instead of the road. Okay. Okay. Page 15, it talks about in the 4th bullet.
Oh, just real quick,
Sorry.
excuse me, just real quick. On page 11, picture 11 again, if you're talking about a specific plan area and trying to, I'm not sure that's a Carson City picture.
Okay, new photo. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
well-
take pictures and give them new ones.
'cause I mean, if you're talking about the Lampa Ranch or the V&T, the Gateway out there.
No, I get it. I
Yeah,
get it.
okay.
Okay. We'll find something. Are we ready for page 15? Okay, the fifth bullet, it says encourage the use of innovative, low-impact development practices. I'm not 100% certain what that means, so I have a question mark next to it. Page 15.
Yeah.
I'm sorry? That's what I'm suggesting since it's not clear what it means. Are you okay with that?
If we can't explain it, we don't need it.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Innovative is vague. Is there any sort of standard for like within the planning industry for low impact development?
Low-impact development is a way you handle stormwater, and in Carson City, there's a mandate that you use low-impact, well, it's actually called low-impact design. Otherwise, low-impact development would be, you could contrast it to high-impact development.
Right, if there's no standard for it.
Yeah, okay. On page 16, the bottom photo, I don't think is Carson. I'm not recognizing that.
Okay.
Are
And
you?
also on page 16,
Yes,
in the second section, vibrant downtown and gateway corridors.
yes,
It should be gateway corridors and a vibrant downtown.
right.
Because we're talking about all the corridors, and then we say, oh, by the way, we want to keep doing downtown.
Yes,
It's another emphasis on the wrong syllable.
gotcha. Okay. Sorry, I didn't have a chance to flag all these pages. Okay. Oh, page 17? Okay, change photo. Okay, page 21. Under goals and policies, actually, this is just a global statement. You'll see the 3.1A. If you go to page 155, a lot of people, 3.1A on page 21 is a policy. When you go to page 155, you have 3.15. I'm sorry, what's the number? 3.1A. No, it's 3.11. But what's happening is people are trying to correlate the two, and one's a policy and the other is an action item. So I feel like there needs to be a box here that explains to you how the action items relate to the goals and policies.
A lot of sense.
You're gonna put that just here or on at the start of every goal?
I think if it starts here, there's gonna be another place where I get to it. Action item, goal policy. Because we heard that a lot from folks, that was very confusing. On page 24,
On the map on page 23,
yes. I think it should be a heavier line weight. What do you think?
well, it's not that so much. I'm just, and it has nothing really to do with the master plan, but all these little spots and dots.
We talked to the Public Works Department and they said we have to keep those gaps.
What are we doing? Is those typically there's got to be like a single resident or two houses
No,
on a well or a
I
septic.
hear you, and we can ultimately kind of drill into it. But that came up at the joint meeting, whether or not we had to have these gaps, and we sat with Public Works and they advised we do.
Well, I'm just saying we need to find another way to fill the gaps in, other than erase them.
Right.
And I don't know that we can do that here.
I don't think so, because it has to reflect what we have. Page 24 is, that's just the same thing, not syncing with the action matrix. So I think if we have the explanation at the beginning, that will be helpful. I thought page 27 was hard to read, but yeah, it's,
My recommendation for page 27
yeah,
is to put this picture as the top third and put the WUI as the bottom 2/3.
oh, good idea.
Take this picture and slide it up to be a third of the page, the whole thing. And then take the WUI section of it and to put it down below.
And that will be 2/3. Okay, that's a good idea, because that's hard to read. On page 28, On 3.2B, the last sentence, it says discourage intensive development within the WUI to limit the impacts of potential disasters. But I flagged that, and I'm trying to remember now why.
Well, the whole idea of WUI is not, we've got some other stuff in here about the development in those
Oh,
areas.
you know what I think? I thought that this could just say that.
Mhm.
I don't know that we need all this public awareness and education. Like, can't we just say discourage intensive development in the wildland-urban interface to limit the impacts of potential disasters?
Yeah.
And just limit it to that sentence? Okay, sorry. Just typewriting. Page 29, I have kind of a lot. On 3.3B, protection of existing site features, it starts talking about another character defining features, particularly those that are visible from from other locations in the community. I think it's a good idea to protect natural features, including, stands of mature trees, distinctive topographical features, but I'm hesitant to use the word visible because we all know nobody has a right to a view. So if you agree, I think we restructure that and remove the right to visibility, I guess, or decisions based on visibility. Okay. Next, on 3.3C, again, we're talking about minimizing the visual impact of the hillside development. I think the hillside development regulations are based on, issues of runoff and erosion and physical components of the slope as opposed to a visual impact. And again, no right to a view. So I'm questioning including that word.
Do we have a skyline area map?
We do. It's on our GIS system, and we have hillside regulations, and the hillside regulations are essentially enforced by the fire department and the city engineer, and are pretty specific to erosion control, grading, and access.
So it's not necessarily reduce the amount of grading or compensating measures, additional setbacks to avoid buildings being seen? Or-
No, it's
Yeah.
not what you would expect when you are expecting to protect the hillside.
Okay, thank you.
Does it work to say reduce, can we say something about existing development standards there, since apparently we have standards related to hillside development already?
Well, the development standards will get amended based on the master plan.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
We can just add, stormwater runoff and erosion. If you want to keep visual, we can do that. 3.3D, in the middle of that paragraph, it talks about light trespass and glare created by urban development. I think it's just created by development. I don't think we need the word urban in there because we just don't want light trespass. And then on 3.3E, it's talking about renewable energy facilities. And so at the very end, and similar facilities are located and designed. Right now it says to not detract from the city's visual quality. I thought we should change that to say designed to promote compatibility and not detract, because we're always looking for compatibility.
Yeah, visual quality seems like a really vague statement. I like compatibility a lot more. I wouldn't keep.
And we can even say promote land use compatibility. Okay, and we'll get rid of the visual quality. Okay. On page 30, on 3.3F, I'm suggesting that we remove the words for future development. So it'll read maintain signage controls for the Carson City Freeway corridor that limit the height, type, size, and quantity of the sign permitted. Okay, I'll keep going. Under sustainable construction techniques, I'm suggesting in the middle that we eliminate the wording that says through programs such as the U.S. Green Building Council, LEED, rating system, which provides for voluntary national standards through the word types. So instead, it will say, encourage the use of sustainable building materials and construction techniques to promote the development of energy efficient, sustainable buildings and communities.
Okay,
You're good with that?
yeah.
Okay. On 3.4C, where it says new homes, I think it should just say residential, then it says residential and non-residential. Under alternative energy, I don't think we have to call out such as solar. We can just say alternative energy. Under stormwater, 3.4D, I think it should be reworded to say continue to require the use of stormwater best management practices and low-impact design strategies. They're designed to, and first, manage runoff and minimize the adverse effects of development on local waterways. It just read better.
Sounds good.
I don't think we're using those acronyms anywhere else, and if we're not, we don't need them parenthetical.
Okay, I will question.
Yeah, I'd just do a search through the doc.
Okay. Got it. On page 31, under 3.4G, government buildings and operations, I'm questioning if we need this policy in the master plan or if this policy is better placed in the city's strategic plan. It's talking about how we construct our city buildings.
Well,
And actually, I'm going to have the same thing on 3.4H, urban agriculture. It's talking about, partnerships to expand local food production and educational opportunities. I'm not sure that belongs in a master plan as opposed to a strategic plan.
Oh, on 3.4G,
Yes.
I agree with just deleting that, but at the bottom, at the last line, it says city operations, lowercase c. Elsewhere in the document, when you're referring to the city, it shows up both as upper and lower.
Okay, okay. Any other thoughts on 3.4G?
No, it's not a plan, it's not a land use plan.
So we can take it out?
And the same with urban, when I read that, I wasn't sure what we were talking about.
So we'll get rid of 3.4H as well? Okay. On
And
page,
then they were gonna have to change that picture.
no, we can put it with like maybe pollinator-friendly landscape.
Okay.
Okay, on page 32, under 3.5B, just add United States Forest Service. Right now, it just says Forest Service, and then just a little typo there. So, where it has amenities and the comma, it doesn't need a comma there. On 3.5E, airport compatibility. Sorry?
On 3.5.
Yeah, which one?
3.5B.
Yes.
You talk about the state and federal and including, okay, so it does say state and federal.
Okay.
So I was just looking for state.
Okay. On 3.5E, airport compatibility, I want to remove the word buildings where it says such as tall buildings and say such as tall structures, because like a cell tower could be an issue, and that's not necessarily a building. On page 33, above ground utility corridors, I want to add to that to say additional above-ground utility corridors must be found to be compatible with the master plan. This is actually in the state law. This is like the one thing we have to have in the entire master plan. And I almost missed it. No, Paizel got it. So, he wasn't. Okay, I'm on page 36. And bullet 1, we'll see what Commissioner Cron thinks. I'm thinking when we talk about the open space program, at the end it says, for residents and visitors alike with access to scenic vistas, and I think it should say active and passive recreational opportunities.
Yeah, we've had that discussion.
So you agree?
Commissioner Preston and I have had that discussion more than once, and so yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, just confirming. Going to the last bullet, there's a reference, we're talking about the broad range of recreation facilities, programs, so on and so forth. But then it says in various off-site programs. I don't know what an various off-site program means. I'm questioning including that there.
Well, what the Parks and Recreation Department will do is have off-site programs like at the elementary schools and stuff. So I'm not sure that's really important in this context, to be honest. It's just, that would be my guess, is what they're talking about, an off-site program.
It says it's attracting people. Well, I guess we can leave it. It's not hurting anything. It's just, I didn't know what it meant. But if you do, that's fine. Page 38. Under 4.2B, I'll first mention that 4.2A talks about the distribution of recreational facilities and parks. So then you get to 4.2B, and we're supposed to be enhancing these facilities, but then it starts talking about create additional facilities where possible in underserved locations. To me, that's going back to distribution of the facility, not the maintenance and enhancement, so I would suggest removal of that. And it would just say improve the quality of existing parks and recreation facilities, period. And then continue to pursue opportunities to improve the city's existing community center and so on.
Okay, I've lost you, Hope, I'm sorry.
Okay, on 4.2B,
Okay,
Take out the second line and the first word of the third line.
because it's talking about the distribution of the facilities, which is actually 4.2A.
okay, no, all right, I'm following you now, all right.
Okay. On page 39, under 4.4A, I'm going to suggest that we eliminate the wording, the following, where it says discourage the future disposal of property identified as state and federal lands on the land use map for private development when located outside the urban service boundary. I don't think we want to discourage that, so I'm going to suggest we delete that so that it will simply say, continue to coordinate with state and federal agencies to ensure that disposal plans are consistent with the city's land use plan and the criteria for the urban service boundary. Are you guys good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Keep going, we're gonna
Four
save a
point-
tree.
I'm going. 4.4B, the land banking. I think that the land banking should come first. So it will say, monitor land slated for potential disposal and identify opportunities for the transfer of such land to city ownership through, or desired for land banking. So we maybe don't need to own it immediately, but we want it for land banking. So I think it should say that, and then it can say through the federal lands bill or other programs.
Yeah, that works.
Okay?
Yep.
I think we're going to start speeding up, maybe not. Page 42. I thought we should add language in here that the state has diversified geographically operations and workforce. I didn't read that here, and I think it's important. On page 43, actually, I'm going to leave that alone. Keep page 43. Page 44 at the top, Carson City is projected to see a steady increase in jobs over the coming decades, bolstering the city's primary jobs base. I don't know what primary means there.
Unless you're talking about the big three or the big four.
And it's not clear. It just says we're going to have a steady increase in jobs. So I think, unless that's compared to a secondary job, I don't know. I think we can get rid of primary. Page 46, 5.1G. I didn't like the word alternatives. It says promote economic development. I thought efforts that protect, enhance, and existing and future property values as opposed to economic development alternatives, because I don't.
Yeah, protects or enhances.
Is efforts okay? Okay. 5.2A, I have a question at the bottom there. It says, continue to coordinate the city's ongoing planning efforts and land use map with major employers where applicable. I don't know why where applicable is there. So I would suggest deleting that. Page 47, 5.2D, industry specialization. It says focus local economic development efforts to build on existing businesses in the sectors of medical and so on and so forth. I don't know who identified those sectors as being the priority. Like, I don't know that recycling's a priority sector. So maybe we just focus local economic development efforts to build on existing businesses, and we don't limit it to certain sectors?
Makes sense. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Do we have tech schools on 5.2E in Carson? Okay, so that's okay.
Beauty College is a tech school.
Okay. Look, I'm flipping pages here. On page 53, at the top, in the middle, it says, as part of these efforts, the city will continue to enhance the appearance, safety, and functionality of the public right-of-way. And then it says, and promote adaptive reuse. I thought it should say, to promote adaptive reuse and reinvestment. So we fix the right-of-way, so hopefully the private sector follows. Typo on page 54, not a big deal. Page 55, under 6.1D. Again, it's talking about views, so balance visibility considerations for businesses with the need to minimize impacts on surrounding views. I think we should just say balance visibility considerations for businesses with the need to, or the desire to reduce sign clutter along gateways. I don't know that we want to talk,
The first sentence on
Yeah.
612.
I just get worried about views because I don't want you to be asked to make a decision based on a view.
Yeah, we just want to reduce the clutter.
Okay, good. Okay, moving right along, on page 56, 6.3B, downtown programming and events. I didn't know if that belonged in the master plan, so I'll let you look at it and see.
Yeah, I mean, the verb is promote. Promote is not a function.
Well, there's lots of promote in here, but. I don't know, but it's talking about promoting downtown for community events. I'm not sure I think that might be strategic plan versus master plan.
I would agree with that.
Okay,
How does that affect land use?
exactly. We want public gathering places, we've said it. Okay, still flipping pages. Okay, page 66. Sure. Oh, that's not Carson City. New photo.
Oh, actually, it was a part of the original 2006 master plan. It looks like. That's true.
We'll replace it, that's okay.
That's true.
So my next one's page 66.
Mine too.
What page? Okay. See, that looks, is that historic district?
No.
Yeah, no, that's, I couldn't figure out a place where that is in Carson City.
Okay, so I'll write new photo. Okay. Chuck, you want to go first? Page 66?
I just have a word change down in workforce housing. Last long sentence, typically workforce housing is targeted toward workers, and I don't like the word workers. I would rather include something like wage earners or employees or something, but not worker. Because we got workers in here 3 or 4 other times when we start to talk.
Residents.
Yeah. Well,
We just say people? People or residents? Okay. My issue was with the definition of manufactured dwelling. I don't like that definition. I don't think it's correct, to be honest. And it makes me kind of wonder if we even need all these definitions or if we can limit it to affordable and workforce.
We had previously.
I'm sorry, say it again.
We had previously.
Limited it to affordable and workforce.
Yeah.
So let's get rid of manufactured mobile home and modular, because those are defined terms.
Yeah, and they're also subject to zoning. Not
Right,
necessarily
and
land use.
this description's not capturing it very well.
And I don't care what the word is, I just think that workers ought to be something
We're
different.
gonna change it to residents.
Okay.
Okay. Page 68. I'm questioning if this, I'm sorry, 7.2I, I'm questioning if this should be in the master plan. Exactly.
By God, we should help Lyon County out.
I couldn't hear you.
By God, we should help Lyon County out.
So I don't know that we're in a position to do this as part of the master plan, and it's a regional effort, so maybe the city as part of the strategic plan could pursue this. Are you good deleting it?
Yeah, we're hard enough trying to get a marketer or
Yeah. Page 69, 7.3B. I'm not loving the word character. It says ensure that infill and redevelopment is of a scale, character, and intensity that's compatible with surrounding development.
That's 2/3 of the complaints that show up sometimes with new projects, so.
I better keep it.
No. Just the opposite. It's, if you put it in here without a very tight definition, it's just inviting.
Does anybody have a better word?
Look, scale and intensity are the de facto character of what you're building, right? Unless we want to start spending a lot of time in a land use document talking about this type of awning, not that type.
No, I don't want to go there. Anyone else on character? Any words?
Stay.
You want it to stay?
I think it should stay.
Okay,
I don't have a problem with it.
keep.
When we get into some of these darn things, if they say, oh, well, we are all one story and we don't want 2 stories.
Well, that's scale.
That's our
In
biggest
fairness,
thing.
that's scale.
Yeah.
Okay. My next item's on page 76. For the Historic Resource Committee, the way it's written is that they are volunteers that review applications for remodeling of historic structures. I think what it should say is they review applications for exterior modifications to historic properties. It's not limited to structures.
okay.
Okay?
Nope, that makes sense.
Okay. Should we change the picture for chapter 9? My next one's page 83.
Just a second. 77, and maybe I just don't get around town enough. Where is that animal at? On page
Oh,
seven?
I was wondering the same thing.
What's
Okay,
that?
so that's not Carson?
Well, I've not seen it, doesn't mean it's
Where
not
is it?
here.
Is this in Carson?
Yes, this is the box store. This is the old bois.
No. We're talking
Page
about the goat.
77?
Talk about the goat. Oh, 77, page 77.
Goat.
I've actually seen that trail running out of east of Centennial Park.
Does it
Just
exist?
kidding.
Is it?
Just kidding.
Oh,
I'm kinda
okay,
like,
we'll
what?
change it. We'll change it. We'll get a Carson City picture.
Yeah, I'm going like, where did the goat come from? Or
Okay.
It actually looks like a,
I thought it was me. Okay.
Ram.
yeah.
I'm ready for page 83 when you are. 9.2C, Design and Access Standards. Yes.
Maybe this is chapter 9
That's why I asked. I'm sorry, what are you saying?
The picture you have right here, like I said, is Heidi's looking back towards Gold Best West. This is the area that right now is scheduled for all the updates.
Right, so we'll get something like a trailer, pretty picture.
Or, well, for Connected City, yeah, trail, or even something on South Carson where it shows those.
Where it looks nice, yeah.
But not
Okay.
this one.
Okay,
Yeah, South Carson would be really great because you have the multi-use path. You've got bike trails, or you have bike lane on one side, but and residential, yeah.
okay, on page 83, are we there? 9.2C. Okay, on this, it talks about design and access standards. Access standards are really, really important because the access standards are going to preclude safe pedestrian and bike access if we keep following NDOT's access standards. So what they wrote was establish design and access standards for development occurring along major gateway corridors. And it wrote to preserve functional integrity, capacity, safety, appearance. I want to change, starting at the word preserve, to say to ensure functionality that accommodates safe multimodal options.
I like that wording.
Okay.
Okay.
Page 88.
Okay. I'm there.
Fold.
What do you mean threefold? Oh, okay, threefold.
And then the downtown map can be on a page by itself.
Yeah, that's one of the plans. Yeah, that's,
This
I
map
agree.
is, you might, if we're gonna use this map, we don't need a map.
No, I hear you.
yeah, it's just, yeah,
Page 97,
Also might consider cutting out some of the
stuff going up to Tahoe and stuff.
up to Tahoe and
Yeah.
out to Lyon County.
My next one's page 97. Under the flex, I mentioned it when we looked at the maps, but I just wanted to make sure everybody understood how that kind of morphed from that initial conversation we had to the flex industrial, which I think is really positive because we have very limited industrial land. That said, I'm wondering if under primary, we should allow commercial uses. Right now, they're only secondary, which maybe we leave it secondary and we see how it goes. Add the commercial to primary? Okay,
It almost put the office as secondary, but I don't think it makes that much difference.
okay. So we'll make commercial use as part of the intention.
If we end up with any changes that allow, I'm gonna misuse the phrase here, but a flex equivalent for commercial and residential.
No,
mix,
the commercial uses are, I think, medical, mixed-use corridor, and downtown mixed use. And then there's the flex and industrial.
But downtown mixed use had some potential for, commercial with residential.
Oh, 100%, so does the corridor mixed use. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, what we did was we just basically broadened it. Yep. Yes.
And on 93, well, what I'm concerned about that was throwing me off on the maps is the high-density residential right next to the downtown mixed use in those off shades of brown.
So
Those two
let's
are-
give downtown mixed use a different color.
Please, give it purple.
Well, I think we gave the tribe purple, but we'll see. Okay, I'm on page 100 when you're ready. Page 100, under state and federal land, it talks about it as if it's all open space, and I think we have to recognize that we have office uses on state and federal land. Buildings. Well, I
Yeah.
think it says I'll just say public facilities.
Quick question on the previous page, 99,
Yes,
on open space.
yes.
Do we want to throw in there as well, under the characteristics intended to protect environmental and topographic significant features? I mean,
And-
use it for floodplain, to secure the floodplain areas,
So to protect hazardous areas?
yeah.
How about just sensitive areas?
Okay, sensitive
Yeah.
areas, environmentally sensitive?
Or, yeah. It could take care of everything from
Faults?
fault lines and
Mm-hmm.
floodplains and animal paths and everything else.
It's in. Okay, page 104. And this might be okay. It's 1.6. It's talking about infill adjacent to established neighborhoods. And it says this in the middle, this may be accomplished through the use of similar housing types, lot sizes, or other development characteristics. And I just wanted to make sure we weren't in a situation where we were trying to match. So I think as long as we're not looking at similar lot sizes, but we're recognizing the lot size can contribute towards compatibility, I think it's okay.
This hints at a PUD or a
Yeah.
NUD.
What do you think?
Well, I know what we're trying to say, but I think it's more confusing.
So maybe remove lot size?
And I think the other thing is similar housing types.
I would probably get rid of from this may be accomplished through.
Well, it says should be designed to minimize impacts on the character of the established neighborhood. And then you're right, because where it says this may be accomplished by, then it's telling us how to implement it, which
Yeah.
the code's going to tell us how to implement it
Yeah,
too.
we're not giving them
Probably
direction.
stop at that first sentence.
Yeah.
If you're talking about
And I
a
don't
land
think
use
I think
character.
it's not minimize impacts. I'm wondering if it's compatible or transition.
I'm sorry?
Compatible or transition, because if we're talking about minimize impacts, my idea of an impact is different than yours. So that leaves it too open to me.
Okay, so what would you suggest? Or I guess
Well,
since it
the-
only
the-
says
the
this,
problem is if we're in low-density residential, what are
Right.
they gonna abut to?
Right.
Another low-density residential?
mm-hmm.
Well, who cares?
No, they're not in the low density. It says infill development on parcels that abut the low density residential.
Right, so like if we have something, for instance, I think Silver Sage. That was fine. For Silver Sage, they wanted to put it in condos next to people who have lots that are 1 acre.
Mhm.
And on the other side, it was 12,000 square feet.
Yep.
So where do you say that that minimize is actually ambiguous?
I'm going to suggest that we remove lot sizes because I think it can be confusing and create an expectation that that's not the intent. And then we can leave the other part for now and we can look at it next month when we're looking to
Well, if
adopt.
we just leave it at the first sentence,
Do you have something?
I think you're right. I mean, I've always had issues about the master plan giving a range of options as specific as this, when that should actually be incorporated into your zoning ordinance, because that's the implementation measure.
So do you,
we're presuming in this that 5 years from now, somebody won't have a really smart way to do something that we hadn't thought of. And we've specified, if we just make the statement, then everybody can use their best practices.
so we'll limit it to the first sentence?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say so.
Okay. On page 105, under 1.1, It says second sentence, new medium-density residential neighborhoods should be oriented around neighborhood serving parks. I want to change should to may. I don't want to mandate HOAs.
Yep, agreed.
On MDR 1.4 at the bottom of that page, I'm questioning if this should be in the master plan.
Yeah. I mean, now you're going back to the SBA, the Schultz Ranch SBA.
Okay, so we're okay deleting 1.4? Is that right? Okay. What page?
I'm sorry, on page 106.
Yep.
Get rid of everything after a neighborhood.
Character of established neighborhoods, just strike.
Yeah, just
Okay, and get rid of that next, leave the first sentence?
leave the first sentence, get rid of the other ones.
Okay.
In 1.15,
Yep.
MDR neighborhoods may incorporate a variety of housing types such as detached, single-family, attached, and duplexes. This will get a lot of pushback on duplexes.
They
How
can be
about-
on the corner.
Could we strive to incorporate, or you think may is
Well,
okay?
I think this is good because now when we update the zoning, we'll know what land uses go in there.
All right.
I'm on page 114. It's talking about, this is the corridor mixed use, and it's talking about higher intensity uses such as commercial service, retail, and high-density residential uses should be concentrated along gateway corridor frontages in near major intersections to leverage access. I'm questioning the portion that says and near major intersections to leverage access.
Where you at?
I'm
Under
on
which one?
1.4 on page 114.
The sixth line down.
Because one, we don't have a lot of major intersections in the city.
All in the corridor.
Exactly, and I think we're looking to create vitality along the entire corridor, not just little clusters at intersections.
That's why you got rid of the activity centers on the maps.
Right, I agree. That's why we did that, so we aren't focusing those activity centers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Up on the first line of 1.4, should generally, that, is this document meant to be more prescriptive than that?
I think we can lose the word generally, and it can just say that the corridor mixed-use development should provide a mix of retail, because actually, I like should, because it's okay to have a mix, but the mix may actually be horizontal. Page 115, is that Carson City? I don't know. Oh, that is? Heather took the picture. She just told me it's hers. Okay. Yeah, it's Carson.
And I think where are both pictures at in Carson?
Oh, that's South Carson, that's like where the something
Like
Bear,
Reds and stuff.
restaurant is, that's looking north.
My next is on page 154.
One what?
150, page 154. Again, I think we should have the how to use so people understand what's the policy and what's the action item, so they don't try to match those up. And now, if we go through the matrix, I have some numbers to change, if you're ready. On page 155, first of all, action 3.12 should be the Growth Management Commission, not the Planning Commission. Yeah, it's talking about growth trends. So that can be growth management. On 3.16, Anything where it's going to rely on updating Title 18, I'm changing it to a 2. A 0's happening already, 1 will happen very quickly. Title 18 is going to take a little bit longer, so I'm giving that a 2. 3.24, again, development standards, so I'm giving that a 2. On maintaining the interactive map of hazards, I don't believe we have that map, so I'm giving that a 1. On 3.26, I'm questioning if this belongs in our master plan, if you want to read that.
Oh, no, it does not.
So we can get rid of 3.26? Okay. 3.27 is disaster response and recovery ordinance. I'm giving that a 3. Continue to implement planned development or planned improvements to public buildings to improve the city's emergency preparedness. Actually, now I gave that a 3, but now I'm wondering if it belongs in here. Oh, it does, because if there's an event, we need to do stuff. So I think 3.28 is a 3. 3.3 is
Back up,
Sorry.
what was that again? One more?
3.2.8
Point three.
to 3.2.8.
Okay, I'm with you.
I gave that a 3.
Okay, so you got rid of the 2 numbers.
Yes.
So it was 1, 0,
Yeah, I want that to be a 3.
a 3. Okay, just.
I just can't, everything was always 0 or 1, so I was
Yeah.
just trying to do something.
Yep.
3.3.3, that's the hillside regs. I'm suggesting that be a 3. The lighting controls, 3.34, that's happening right now, so that should be a 0. Next page, 157, 3.36. It's talking about standards for wind, solar, and geothermal. I think that can be a 4. I'll just keep going. Page 158.
Hope, did you
Yep.
get rid of 4? Did we get rid of 4?
Which one are you looking at? What page?
Did we get rid of number 4?
No, I want to put a 4 on
As a standard.
3.3.
No, it's only 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Oh, did we get rid of? Wait, I thought we had 5.
We got rid of them. We only got,
Oh, shoot.
Look at page
Okay, then let's
154.
make it a 3. Okay, I thought we still had 5.
no.
All right. Page 158, 3.57. That's airport overlay. I gave that a 2 because that will be Title 18.
357 is currently
It is a 2.
Correct.
I know, because I thought we had, oh, okay, I probably gave it something else. I scratched out a couple times. Okay. 411, I gave it a 5, so I guess I'll give it a 3. Wait, do we have 3s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 4.12, again, let's go with a 3. 4.15, I'm questioning if that should be in the master plan.
No,
No, no.
not our job.
Okay.
Yeah, not our job.
Okay, next page, page 159. Action 4.3.3, I'm questioning if that should be in the master plan.
No.
No.
Okay. On 5.12, it talks about the economic development initiatives. I think that's a 2. 5.13, the comprehensive review and update of Title 18 is a 2. Page 160, the monitoring long-term opportunities for retention and expansion of the employment base is a 2. Coordinate city, 5.2.2, I gave that a 1. Doesn't happen right now, to my knowledge. 5.23, I gave that a 3. Do we have 3s?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, 5.24, I gave that a 3. So this is a lot of coordinating. 5.25, I gave that a 3. 5.26, I gave a 5, so I guess I'll give that a 3. Next page, 5.31, I gave that a 3. 5.32, I gave it a 2. 5.44, 4.5, and 4.6, I think should all be 3s. Page 162, I'm questioning if action 5.52 should be in the master plan.
Nope.
Okay. 5.53, I gave that a 3. 6.12, I gave that a 1. I feel like we should do that pretty quick because Campo's working on Highway 50. 6.13, I think can be a 3. And 6.14 can be a 3. 6.15, 6.16 can both be 3s. 6.17, I gave that a 2. And 6.18, a 3. 6.21, a 3.
Okay, hang on just a second.
Okay.
The encourage NDOT to complete the interstate.
Why can't that be a 0?
I just thought it would be focused. We can make it a 0. That's fine. I went with 0. On 6.21, can we get rid of the word champion and call it role? So it's the redevelopment role.
New city manager, maybe they'll take that on as a.
Okay. On 6.23, I gave that a 2. On 6.24, I gave that a 1. Okay. Page 164, the top 4 are all 3s. And actually, the next 2 are 3s. On 6.3.3, I'm questioning if that should be in the master plan. Okay. On 7.1.1, I gave that a 2. On page 65, 7.21, 7.22, and 7.23, I gave those all 3s. And 7.24 and 7.25, I'm questioning if those should be in the master plan. To both?
Yeah.
Okay. On 7.27, the lead will be community development. 7.28, I gave that a 2. Next page. 7.31, I gave it a 2. 7.41, I want to reword it that we're not maintaining an inventory. It will say make information regarding housing rehabilitation, so on and so forth, available on the city's website, and community development does that right now. So we can keep doing that. 7.43, I gave that 1. 7.44, I gave it a 2. 8.11, I gave it a 2. 8.14, I gave it a 3. 8.15, I want to get rid of the example at the end and give that a 3. 8.21 is a 3. 8.23 is a 3. 8.24 is a 3. 9.13 is a 3. Actually, let me stop. 9.13 and 9.14, I'm questioning if they should be in the master plan.
No.
No for both?
Yep.
Okay, those go away. 9.32, I gave that a 1. And that's as much as I did.
I'm glad to see that you're finally realizing the limitations of your staffing.
That's my report.
207.
Okay, I didn't go into the appendix.
I finished it.
Okay.
This book is going to last us 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And those internet things may not be there in 5 years. They need to be either put into the
I think
city
hard
somewhere.
copy.
What page again, Chuck? I'm sorry?
207.
207, okay.
Yeah, well, I think we have to include them in the hard copy. We can't have people searching for a website that might become obsolete.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we either have to make a website on the city
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, or something. I'm not opposed to having the documents there, but if these are old files, 10 years from now, if you click on that, you're going to get a 404 or something.
I know in the city of Sparks, when we were digitizing all of our records, there's a specific time frame where you had to keep a paper copy handy for the public to come in and inspect. So we might want to look at that.
I like a document to be complete, personally. That way I don't have to look for anything.
Well, and also when with Lyon County, sorry to drag up old things, but we were accepting digital applications as long as they had one paper copy so that anybody could come in
Yeah.
to observe it or take a look at it, and it was held in the office. And I think if we go that route, we should be
We'll
okay.
figure it out. I mean, we can certainly, for the public record, include the attachments as part of the document. And that way anybody can go on the city's website and see what the planning commission recommended. Okay, I don't have anything else. If you have anything for me?
Well,
Right,
public
public.
comment, no. All right, is there any public comment on this item that we just did? Please come forward, sign in the sign-in sheet. Press the button until the light turns green and you're free to go.
Am I on here?
Go ahead.
Okay, here we go. Thank you. For the record, Dan Thornton, muscle-powered board member and founder of Ride Carson City. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dan Thornton, and I'm here tonight as a muscle-powered board member and the founder of Ride Carson City to urge you to include the future Carson City Bike Park in the master plan update. Originally slated for adoption tonight, but it looks like we've got a little more work to do. As a side note, I would also like to mention that I am excited about the approval of the SUP for the outdoor recreation kiosk at the Railroad Museum. We look forward to educating visitors about the future Carson City Bike Park at that facility. For over 7 years, a bike park has been involved in some level of discussion with city staff. There was a serious group ready to move a bike park forward back in 2019, and unfortunately, the pandemic necessitated shelving it. I have spoken at several previous public meetings about a bike park's important piece as missing infrastructure, and tonight I want to reinforce how the Carson City Bike Park aligns with the city's long-term vision and why it should be part of the master plan update. The bike park aligns with the Carson City's master plan goals in several ways. The updated master plan prioritizes outdoor recreation, economic development, and quality of life. These are themes that were brought up at every listening session. The Carson City Bike Park supports all three. It provides a high-quality recreation space for residents and visitors. It attracts tourists and outdoor recreation dollars, just as bike parks in South Lake Tahoe, Incline Village, and Truckee, and all over the United States have done. These parks have all proven that well-designed bike parks boost local businesses and expand regional tourism. It vastly strengthens Carson City's reputation as an outdoor recreation hub, complementing our existing trail network and making the city an even better place to live, work, and visit. Public support is strong, and funding will come from grants and private donors. We are not asking for the city for any money for this project. This is a rare thing to come along. And this is from Muscle Powered, a partner you've had for 26 years. Public demand for this project is clear. The Centennial Park Master Plan survey completed this past September showed overwhelming support for a bike park in Carson City. This is a project that the community wants and is ready to help make happen. We are not asking for city funding for this project. The Carson City Bike Park will be supported through grants, private donations, and sponsorships, with your longtime partner Muscle Powered leading the way. This is similar to how other bike parks across the country have been built. While the city's role is critical with planning, your community partners will help you. And what I'm asking for tonight is that you formally include the Carson City Bike Park in the updated master plan. If that is not possible at this point in the process, I urge the commission to make a clear statement of support for the bike park tonight and commit to requesting that the Carson City Bike Park be included as a future agenda item in the near future. By doing so, you help ensure that Carson City is planning not just for today, but for the future generations. Thank you, and let's build a bike park.
Thank you.
So, good evening, Commission. My name is Kevin Geralds. I've lived in this community since 1991, or 34 years. I wanted to protest the change to the land use for the northeast corner of the Lampa Ranch for the medium density to high density. I've been looking at that piece of property for 27 years. I've lived in the 3100 block of Desatoya. I'm not here to plead that there's no construction there. I understand that with time, change comes. We have to grow as a community. I'm invested in this community for a long time. I was excited to see that when I got my postcard that there was going to be some similar homes originally planned for those pieces of land, like the ones that I live in. I live in a 1,100 square foot home. I've raised 4 boys there that are all adults in this community. They all contribute, and I've also been a public servant for 29 years here in the state of Nevada. I would just like to see similar sized homes for small families in that area instead of multi-family. I'm kind of new to this and I haven't done a lot of research. I just found out about this. I've heard a lot of things that I agree with and I'm in alignment with, and I do respect a lot of the process that I've seen here today. And I really appreciate Hope's kind of perspective on a lot of things, because I didn't know anything about her until I saw what I've seen tonight. I just want there the same opportunities that I've had as a young man at 24 years old, buying a single family home, transitioning from apartments here in Carson. And I wanted areas for my 4 children. One of them is a 2-time homeowner, but 3 of them still rent. And as you well know, affordable housing is difficult. I'm looking for those transitional style homes where you can go from the apartments and you're not looking at the high-end luxury apartments that we've done a lot of here, and then go into, someone that has a career or service, and then you can afford to maybe increase in the size. So finally, I had a predetermined, pre-written thing, but I just kind of went from the heart here. So I hope you appreciate that, and thank you for your time tonight and your public service. And I just really am looking forward to hear more about your decisions on this, because I'm a little confused on what decisions have been made and who knew what and what the applicant is going to do with that property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Ken Crater with Crater Consulting Group, and I am here speaking on behalf of the owner of the property that's been under discussion tonight in the East Lampa Ranch area. And just a little bit of history, I'm very familiar with that piece. A couple of other partners and myself looked at that about 4 years for a small lot, single-family development, but we walked away from it just because we couldn't make the economics work with the land price that the owner has, because he has right now multifamily apartment zoning on about 5 acres of that. So there's a lot of density to the tune of about 330 odd units allowed on that property. But now move forward to today, and a new owner has bought that, has already about an $8 million investment in that property, Guardian Capital, who has done multiple projects within the Reno Sparks area. This will be their first project in Carson City, and I've worked with them on 4 other projects. They're a great company, and what I love about them is they actually build to own. They own their projects long-term. They do a great job. In fact, they visit their properties every month or 2 months, walk the whole thing, make sure everything's up to speed. So they said, Ken, help us. We're not making this work. And my background is in civil engineering, transportation planning. I've done development my entire life. And so I looked at this and said, well, it has the potential to be a good project, but there's some holes in it. One of those being the fact that the street right now goes right through the middle of the property and cuts the entire parcel in half. And plus, it dumps out into Desatoya Drive, which is a residential neighborhood, obviously to the east. And as a long-term transportation planner, that just didn't make sense. Desatoya has poor sight distance if you're pulling out from that street. And so I looked at it and said, why don't we bring that street, North Lompa extension, all the way to south to Airport Road and Butteye Way? That makes far more transportation planning sense. And now we can create a green belt all the way along Airport Road to better separate the project from the residents to the east. Plus, I found out that they'd never talked to the owner of that 3-acre park parcel, so that wasn't going anywhere. We've since communicated with him. We're working with the Parks Department. We met several times with Parks and Recreation staff. They love the plans that our landscape architect has put together. We have a meeting set up with the SPCA across the street. We're going before the Parks and Recreation Commission. So I'm trying to fill in all the holes now so we can bring a much better project to the community. And we requested the master plan amendment. Well, we were going to request one anyway before we talked to Hope for a couple reasons. One is without the park parcel plan previously, the current project has all this open space on it. Well, once the park is developed, you can bet somebody would come in and request a couple more units on the open space. So let's be upfront about it and bring forward a project that's going to be there permanently. So anyways, it's a long story, but I believe there's a lot of good that will come out of all the additional planning that we're doing on that site. So the neighborhood knows what they're going to have for the long term, get the park plan, build it with the project, and give Carson City what they've wanted out of the specific plan district for the North Lompa Ranch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Denny French, Carson City, thank you all for your efforts. I'm trying to make this short. FAA has started to look into the facts that they have to really consider not only what's on the landing fields or airport areas, as far as not only the material, the height or the structure size, but the materials made out of. And then also as far as development around such, to include industrial as a hazard in itself. If a plane goes down, then that multiplies if there's material inside that's flammable or explosive. And so those things have to be considered as far as industrial. Those things in a house are bad enough. You know, if it lands on a house, you've got the gas and electric to contemplate. But also, I'm concerned about not having in this plan a sanctuary consideration, considering Land Act opportunities for BLM to change over to properties for the city's development as well as states. And as those things come up, and if we don't already have a good look at what's around us as far as BLM and such, we may miss opportunities to ask them to put that on their habitat, oh gosh, what is that word? Migration list. And so we're losing some open space. I don't feel that we really should be. Also, I'm concerned about the Coots. I couldn't say the word. Coots. The trailhead is on a piece of property that was a hill that I definitely would rather not have it there. But they have a beautiful setup for the trail head, and the trailhead is in a area that doesn't have access except through a utility easement, and it's with the BLM land down below it to the west. so I think you know what I mean. If you're going up Kuntz and it asphalt ends, you've got the road that heads up to the trailhead, which was really bad, and somebody's made corrections. So my little vehicle can do it now, but you would have to get all the way up to the trailhead to have any flat or easy run. And my understanding is that it's being held off in improvement, hoping that the land below that BLM will go to a developer, and that developer then would be responsible for making a road up to their trailhead. And I don't like that idea. I think that that space might be considered a dump, but to me, it's a habitat that we might want to look at as far as preserving. And we should approach the BLM if we can, if it makes sense as far as the insects and the environment. I know that there's erosion problems. I think they've taken care of a lot of that by putting the road in that they have, which, I'm sorry, that's phase 3. And they're hoping that that works. But nature works the best. And I would hope that we could have gotten the sanctuary consideration. Thank you. Thank you.
Betsy Strasberg, resident Carson City. I just printed out the 200 pages of the document before I came here. I know there's been a lot of changes tonight, and I just wanted to find out when the updated document would be available for review, and hopefully it'll be a redlined version so we can see the before and after state and review it in a more efficient manner. I've been to a lot of the listening tours, and I looked at the appendix that had the resident input, and I would have preferred and would request the commission to ask for more specifics on the small rural town. That was one of the biggest feedback. I know that I've heard comments that what does that imply? And if that is the concern, let's define it. What is the commission's definition of small rural town? And see if that is in alignment with what the resident thought of when they provided that feedback. The second thing is compatibility of adjacent neighborhood, which has been the concern and oftentimes a lot of aggravation for existing neighborhoods. And I didn't see any specifics, and maybe I missed it. And if that's the case, maybe the redlined version will tell us how that is. I also looked at Appendix A, and the populations cited on Table 1 is incorrect. It doesn't tie with the budget document or the growth management document. And I think using the incorrect population has led to the full build-out statistics on page 172, which says we will reach about 62,355 residents in 2042. Based on all the charts that Ms. Sullivan showed us, we're likely going to reach that number long before 2042 if we use the correct current population. And I think that would be more in the 2030. And we need to have that discussion now while the master plan is in progress. Thank you so much.
Sorry. Good evening. Leanne Sarum for the record. I'm kind of all over the place. First of all, I apologize. I did write a letter tonight and it was very late. Just because of feeling so, I guess, overwhelmed with, as you guys I'm sure are, trying to get through this multiple drafts of the master plan. And I also echo Bepsi's concern that we need a red line version. The community, I mean, I know you guys, this is your job, unfortunately, to have to read through this so many times and changes and updates. But I mean, for the community to digest this properly and not have things just get through, and the way the land use maps, and I appreciate Hope for not bringing it tonight to say, prove the whole thing and let's move forward. I'm glad we're taking a little bit more time. But there's got to be, I mean, as an engineer, when we do drawings, there's a rev cycle. There's very meticulous ways you do a rev. We had Title 18. We also had a red line version where you could see the old, you could see the new. It was easy to compare. It was easy to see the changes. We're not doing an entire rewrite. So doing a red line version and having it to where we have a much better way to understand the changes for the community to be able to digest does not seem to be an unreasonable request. And also having more time. I don't know when this was done. I don't know when the official tonight's version was put out, but the first time I saw it was with the agenda. So it was very short notice for us to get through, the 200 pages. In addition,
Welcome to the club.
I have, yeah, exactly. I think that's the comment kind of. And so the other thing is, indirectly on certain things is I know that I have an agitation with adding things into the master plan now that haven't gone through full scrutiny. The Lampa Ranch, the Budeye developments, parcels that are being from medium density to high density, a lot of them. We just heard that there's a whole new plan and project that's being planned. The entitlement could change. Everything could change. So why are we just slipping it through and automatically putting it into the master plan now? We should leave it the way it is. We should go through the full process the way it should be independently so that everyone gets noticed properly. Everyone gets a chance to be here doing the whole thing, and it's not just lumped in to this long detailed process of the master plan. I just think it's not responsible to do it all at once. And I just feel very strongly that it's kind of gives a different version of what could be and what could grandfathered in, and now that it's high density. So I just think we should relook at that. And so thank you. I appreciate you letting us comment.
Any further comment?
I'd like to clarify the comment on the population because that did come up with the consultant. The state demographer put out new population projections relatively recently. I feel like it was October. And those projections, actually, it was a 20-year projection, and they changed the certified number as well. But the 20-year projection showed our growth rate was actually going to be slower than what was anticipated the year before. And the consultant said, oh my gosh, we have these brand new projections. We should, update all our information. And I said, well, let me sit with the state demographer because I don't understand. We have growth, we have development. Why are we suddenly getting in 20 years to like one additional resident, literally? And so I sat with the state demographer and he said, quite honestly, I wouldn't rely on the projections more than 5 years out. Even that he said I'm required to do this 20-year projection, but if I were you, it's the first 5 years that are the most reliable. And so I told the consultant, no, I don't want to pay you to update all of that. To me, the policies are really what the goals, the objectives, the policies are the meat of this document, the map. And I'm not certain that spending money to update based on a 20-year projection was necessary. I'm also not certain that updating that population number, although a new certified number has come out, really would have changed any of that, and I didn't want to pay for that.
And in addition to that, I think in the years that I've watched the growth management projections come through, we've always underestimated. It's always been underperforming, and I don't see that it's going to change a lot. I mean, there's nothing indicating that it's going to change other than the slow growth that we've been projecting all along. So.
Oh, and just one other thing on Dan Thornton's bike park. He gave a fantastic presentation at Staybridge Suites. It was so impressive, and he was here again tonight. My understanding is the idea of the bike park would be at an existing recreational facility. And so from a land use perspective, a park's a park, it's a park. And I understand that if you are, part of the bike park, that's a big difference between that and, say, a tennis court. But the planning commission doesn't get into whether that park has a tennis court or a bike track. It's a park. And so, again, this would be something that I totally appreciate his enthusiasm and the letters that are coming in supporting this. But I don't think the master plan would get that specific in terms of the amenities at a park.
Well, there's a piece of land right at the end of the runway. We looked at it. Future agenda items? We're going to start at 3 o'clock, right?
Yeah, we're starting early because of the master plan. And so just so you know, and I forgot I have to do this PowerPoint, don't I, under my director's report. And so, yeah, so we will start early to complete the master plan. And you have quite a few items on the agenda, including some townhouses out at Plateau. That will be a tentative map. I can't remember everything, but you've got like 6 items or something. I don't think anything's super hard. I'll be on the phone. I will be on the phone with them tomorrow, I promise.
I do have to state that I will not be at the March meeting. I'll be out of town, and my wife has actually forbidden me from taking my laptop with me, so I won't be able to Zoom in either.
Okay. Well, we'll still get you a map and get your input. So I'm sorry, I didn't come with future items. I can do the director's report real quick.
Okay.
Mackenzie put this together a couple days ago, so it's a couple days old, not 100% current. In terms of February through February 24th, so again, we have another week to go. The valuation of all the permits issued in February was a little shy of $13 million. Total valuation for permits in calendar year 25 is $67 million. A lot of that is the apartments going in at William and Stewart. As of the 24th, we had 15 housing starts in February for a total of 235 housing starts so far in 2025. For business license, 54 business licenses were issued, including, she likes to spotlight one, so it's Skyline Pet Hospital, but that actually was a name change. It used to be, Carson Tahoe maybe Hospital on South Carson. Code enforcement cases dropped off with only 19 new cases opened as of February 24th for the month of February, but 38 cases were closed, and we have started parking enforcement. It's spring, so we are enforcing parking downtown and issued 53 tickets. Year items for today were the master plan discussion, the Adventure Center, and your election. Upcoming dates, we have the HRC will be on March 5th. We'll have an administrative permit review on March 26th, and we'll have the Planning Commission meeting starting at 3 on the 26th. Special events coming up because the Business License Division does special events. We include this slide. This Carson City Symphony will perform at 4 o'clock on March 2nd, and the City Council, the Lions Club crab feed will be on the 22nd at Fuji Park. Also, the Board of Supervisors had a retreat last Friday. They asked me to talk about short-term rentals, which I did. The board did give direction on that, and their expectation would be that those would be limited to the commercial zones, and they suggested maybe the RO zone. And they do not want them in established residential neighborhoods. Their thought process was start very small and see how it goes. But that's how they want to start. We also talked about temporary use permits, and they said that temporary use permits should not exceed 30 days with a total of 60 days per year. So 2 events, and we had discussions whether or not temporary use had to be consistent with the primary use of the property, or if it could be different than. And they said it could be different than because there had been some issues in town with temporary use permits and certain businesses not pleased that other businesses were having temporary use permits instead of full-fledged investment in land. So those were 2 things you'll be seeing coming forward once we'll have to revisit Title 18 sooner rather than later because we're having some challenges with the implementation. So we'll get those cleaned up as soon as it's codified. That's all I have.
That's it?
That's
You're not going
plenty.
to tell us about the new city hall?
It's not my deal.
Okay. And again, the agenda for next month is starting at 3 o'clock. Commissioner reports and comments? Anyone? All right. I want to thank the people that came tonight. I want to thank the staff and welcome to all our new people. Maybe someday we'll have a coffee machine back here that works. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment.
Thank you. Denny French, Carson City. Was that, you mentioned, Ms. Hope mentioned a workshop or a retreat, and I was down as a supervisor's work session. Were those the same?
Yep, it's all
Okay.
the same.
All right, thank you. It's like open space. It has several different locations. I did want to bring up the fact that with the BLM, the state and other entities being able to perhaps, including forestry, turn their land over to cities for sell or sell them, however that works legally, that we have to just, I feel that it would only be fair to limit those type of things if they get the land under those type of deals, to not allow them to have special, to change the basics of whatever that land is determined to be used for, like no special, oh gosh, my brain's just washed out on page 99, I think, and I held in. But the deal is that when special use permits should be considered differently when they're getting the land through what we're losing as open space. Somehow we should benefit from that, in some sort of financial way or something to allow us to get or find other land that we could then put into those positions that we call open space that, like I said, should be considered restricted from building. But this thing about all of this development that will come up, and it might be great for a lot of different reasons, but we still have to work in the perimeter of our utilities and the electric grids and also the water consideration, especially since this year is very unusual, but it's not compared to last summer. We haven't gotten there yet, so I'm hoping that's not the same. But the water conservation considerations are real important to me. And I think when we put in artificial turf, and this is out of your deal, but that we then are limiting our water supply or toxifying it unnecessarily, which would mean more treatment necessary and such in the future. And our growth would be held to that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment at this time? Can I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. All right, second? Oh, you want to come speak? All right, I'm sorry. I was a little fast on you. Push the button until it turns green.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go. It's green.
My name's Annette Mankins, and I'm a little new at this, and I've been listening to a lot of this tonight. And on the airport part, my granddaughter lives not too far in that area, and the commercial is right, her property is right back to back with it. And the construction people that are there, they can get up on the roof, they yell, they're cussing. My granddaughters complained about this a lot, and my great-grandkids are out in the back playing, and I have a concern of that particular type of construction going on in that area. And so, and one of the other things that came to mind for me was there is the property that you were talking about where the airport is and the way the planes come in there, that higher property. People are over there all the time. They walk, they have their dogs over there, there's bikes, all kinds of activities. And again, I don't know if the city has thought about it, but a park over in that area would be a great area. I don't know what the developers want to do with that property. I know they want money, but it sure would be a great place in that area to have a park. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be sure and sign in on the sheet of paper right there. All right, if there's any further comment from the public. All right, I have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor, say aye.
I,
See y'all in March.